Chapter 119. Sword Steely. After Yi Fei left, news of him gradually spread throughout the outer sect of the Sacred Land. Originally, as the first disciple to pass the Demon Memorial Pagoda in 10 years, Yi Fei should have received the attention of many elders. Unfortunately, in the eyes of Elder Tianyin, Yi Fei had long been an opportunistic, arrogant, and ignorant person. In addition, Yi Fei had also clashed with Gu Man and Ouyang Jia. These outer sect elders wouldn't ask for trouble by accepting a disciple who went around causing trouble. This also caused all the Earth-level geniuses to be taken in as disciples by the outer sect elders. Only Yi Fei was left, and no one cared about him. No one would teach him the hidden benefits of passing the king of the newcomer's level. Luckily, I have Wang Bai to remind me. Otherwise, I would have missed out on an Earth-level martial art. Yi Fei looked at the skills library in front of him and felt a little excited. He had the Invincible Sword Soul and the Devil Emperor Sutra, so he didn't need to change his cultivation technique. The only thing he lacked was a powerful martial art. The 13 sword style was a black-level martial art. If he used it in Zhao, it would be considered a top martial art. However, if he used it in the Sacred Land, it would be at the bottom. Therefore, what Yi Fei urgently needed now was to master a sword art martial art. I just don't know what kind of powerful sword martial arts the Sacred Land has. Yi Fei licked his cracked lips. The closer he got to the skills library, the more he could feel its majesty. Even a palace in the secular world didn't have such a grand aura. Wang Bai pointed at the door of the skills library and chuckled. The Taishan Sacred Land's martial arts techniques aren't that great. However, I heard that there is a sword steel inside. It was left behind by the first sacred master for his descendants to comprehend. After you enter and find that sword steel, I guarantee that you will benefit greatly. Brother Wang, don't you know a little too much? Yi Fei looked at Wang Bai with a strange expression. He saw Wang Bai's 4 eyebrows tremble. What's wrong, brother? Are you doubting me? Let me tell you, don't look down on me because I'm weak. I can predict the future and the past 500 years. Since you've acknowledged me as your brother, do you think I'll mistreat you? Wang Bai said with a righteous expression. Yi Fei was about to vomit blood. He felt that Wang Bai was really asking for a beating. I treat you as a friend, but you treat me as a lackey. Forget it. Seeing that Wang Bai is indeed older than me, I'll endure it. Yi Fei was also interested in the sword steel that Wang Bai mentioned. Are we going in now? Yi Fei looked at Wang Bai. Wang Bai shook his head. No, you're the one who's going in. I'm such a dazzling talent. I don't need to use martial arts at all. As long as I show my handsome side, I can kill the enemy invisibly. All right. The truth was that new disciples were generally not allowed to enter the skills library. The only exceptions were the elders or the newcomer king. Of course, this was something that Yi Fei would find out later. Afraid that if he continued to listen, he would be depressed to death by Wang Bai's narcissism. Yi Fei hurriedly walked into the skills library as fast as he could. As soon as he walked in, he bumped into a familiar face. It was Gu Man, who had left first. He was accompanied by Elder Xian Mo and had also come to the skills library to pick a martial art. When Gu Man saw Yi Fei walk in with a newcomer king's token, he felt extremely uncomfortable. He arrogantly ignored Yi Fei. Elder Xian Mo snorted coldly. In her eyes, those who didn't have a special constitution were all trash. Of course, she wouldn't have any good impression of Yi Fei. However, when Elder Xian Mo saw that Yi Fei was able to come to the Skills Method Palace alone without being told by an elder, she was slightly surprised. Elder Xian Mo inadvertently glanced into the distance. Then, with a meaningful look, she pulled Gu Man and flew towards the cultivation mountain. What's there to be arrogant about? Now I finally understand what kind of people are in the Holy Land. Yi Fei revealed a trace of worry. He thought of his younger sister, Yi Shanshan. That girl's temperament was soft, and she had been weak since she was young. He didn't know if she would be bullied in the Star Moon Holy Land. Sister, wait for me. I will soon step into the Star Moon Holy Land to see you. Yi Fei's eyes flashed with determination. In this world, he only had one relative, and that was his younger sister, Yi Shanshan. For her, Yi Fei was willing to do anything. Elder Tian Yin, what is going on? Didn't you say that you didn't tell that trash about the newcomer king's hidden benefits? Why would that trash appear here? Not long after Yi Fei walked into the skills library, Ouyang Jia appeared at the entrance with an ashen face. Elder Tian Yin was standing beside him. Seeing Yi Fei walk into the skills library, Elder Tian Yan's head was filled with confusion. Which bastard ruined this old man's plans? This old man didn't bring that brat to the skills library because I wanted to leave the newcomer king's hidden benefits to you. I didn't expect that brat to inquire about it himself. Elder Tian Yin, what should we do? Should we just let that trash go? Ouyang Jia was so angry that he felt dizzy. He had lost a year's worth of cultivation resources to Yi Fei. The newcomer king's title had also been snatched away by Yi Fei. Now, he had to give up the hidden benefits that he had obtained with great difficulty. When had he, the dignified young master Ouyang, ever suffered such humiliation? Ouyang Jia felt extremely uncomfortable in his heart. Elder Tian Yin's expression was also very ugly. Now that Yi Fei had brought the newcomer king's token with him, his plan to let Ouyang Jia replace Yi Fei and obtain the hidden benefits of the newcomer king's hidden benefits was no longer possible. Most importantly, his efforts to mend his relationship with Ouyang Jia had also failed. How could Elder Tian Yin tolerate this? Ouyang Jia, don't worry. Since this old man has promised you that I'll give you an Earth rank martial art as compensation, then I definitely won't go back on my word. How about this? We'll wait here and wait for that brat to come out. At that time, this old man will make the decision for you. You can directly go up and gamble with him again. You can take back what you've lost with interest. As an elder, he actually encouraged a disciple to snatch from a fellow disciple. He even had the backing of such a disciple. If Yi Fei was here, he would definitely have an eye-opener. However, this was also because Ouyang Jia's talent was too high. In the future, there was a 50% chance that he would become a powerful martial king. This was the real reason why Elder Tian Yin was willing to help Ouyang Jia. When Ouyang Jia heard this, his eyes suddenly lit up. He smiled sinisterly and said, Elder Tian Yin, you're still the best. Why didn't this young master think of this? I lost to that trash because I was careless. If Elder can make the decision and let me gamble with that trash again, I'll definitely be able to turn defeat into victory. Who knows, I might even be able to snatch that devastatingly beautiful cousin of his. Elder Tian Yin and Ouyang Jia looked at each other. The two of them laughed sinisterly. They might as well wait outside for Yi Fei to come out. When the guarding elder of the skills library saw a new disciple walk in alone, he was also very surprised, especially Yi Fei's cultivation level. In this elder's eyes, he couldn't be more trashy. The guarding elder was immediately enraged. He didn't even ask and started to berate Yi Fei. Bastard. New disciples are not allowed to enter the skills library without the accompaniment of an elder. You don't even know the rules, and yet you dare to barge in. Why aren't you getting out of here? According to the Sacred Lands rules, as long as you're the newcomer king, you can come in and choose an Earth-level martial technique as a reward. Are these rules a joke? Yi Fei held back his anger and flashed the pass token in his hand. You, with such low strength, you actually managed to pass? The guarding elder was dumbfounded on the spot. The token in Yi Fei's hand was not fake. He sized up Yi Fei again and discovered that Yi Fei had a first-grade Earth-level Dantian. Only then did he manage to soften his tone and said, Then what kind of martial technique do you want? I don't want any martial technique. Yi Fei shook his head. He remembered what Wang Bai had said to him. I want to borrow the sword steel. You actually know about the sword steel. Chapter 120. Chapter 120 Sword Maniac. What? Spiritual consciousness? Yi Fei wasn't interested in listening to the rest of the Guardian Elder's words. His entire focus was on the sword steel, because the sacred master's spiritual consciousness was on the sword steel. Wang Bai didn't lie to me. This sword steel must be an incredible treasure. Yi Fei was extremely excited. What was a spiritual will? It was something that only peerless experts could leave behind. Even if the physical body was destroyed, the spiritual will would exist forever. The stronger the martial artist, the stronger the mind intent left behind. For example, when Yi Fei was in the demon ceiling pagoda, the demon emperor had been suppressed for 3,000 years. All that remained of him was a strand of his consciousness. It was because of this consciousness that the demon emperor hadn't died after being suppressed for 3,000 years. From this, it could be seen how miraculous spiritual will was. Now that the spiritual consciousness of a holy lord was right in front of him, Yi Fei would be an idiot to refuse such an opportunity. As for the dangers mentioned by the guardian elder, Yi Fei completely ignored them. With the undying sword soul, he could do whatever he wanted. Of course, on the surface, Yi Fei still said courteously, "Thank you for your advice, elder. I would like to borrow the sword steel to take a look." "You are so stubborn. Go to the most remote back hall. The sword steel is there. Remember, don't disturb Martial Uncle's cultivation. If you make Martial Uncle unhappy and he accidentally releases his sword intent and injures you, then it's your own bad luck." The guardian elder's attitude changed greatly. He looked at Yi Fei as if he was looking at a piece of rotten wood that could not be carved. He turned his back and lay on the chair, not saying another word. Yi Fei couldn't be bothered to waste his breath on these snobbish elders. After politely thanking them, he turned around and walked into the skills method hall. In the innermost and most remote hall, there was one. It was unknown how old the palace was. Many of the walls had been weathered into piles of sand. There were broken walls everywhere. It was like a ruin. However, in the middle of the ruins, there was a stone tablet in the shape of a sword that pierced the clouds. Yi Fei knew that this was the sword steel. He walked out, wanted to take a closer look. A hoarse voice suddenly called out to him, "Stop! The spiritual will on the sword steel is too powerful. Although you have the extraterrestrial divine fire in your body, it will be difficult for you to resist it. Forcefully comprehending it will only do more harm than good." Only then did Yi Fei notice that there was an old man sitting cross-legged near the sword steel. He was able to tell the secret of Yi Fei's body at a glance. It was unknown how many years the old man had not moved. His head and body were covered in green moss, completely blending in with the surrounding scenery. However, the old man's gaze was very bright. No, it was no longer a gaze, but a sword light. Just by looking at each other, Yi Fei seemed to see thousands of sword lights flashing in front of him. This old man's strength was extremely terrifying. Yi Fei did not dare to be negligent in the slightest. He hurriedly bowed and said, "Thank you for your advice, elder. However, I still want to give it a try." Silly child, silly child." The old man nodded and then shook his head. He did not continue speaking. Those who dared to comprehend the sword steel were all geniuses among geniuses. All of them thought highly of themselves. They would not learn their lesson until they were badly battered. Clearly, the old man also treated Yi Fei as such. Knowing that he could not persuade him, he closed his eyes and cultivated silently. Around his body, there were flashing, terrifying sword lights. Yi Fei was shocked when he saw this. What kind of realm did he have to reach to be able to release such terrifying sword chi unconsciously? This old man was the one who truly loved swords. He was a sword fanatic. Yi Fei only had respect for this old man who was obsessed with the way of the sword. "Elder, sorry to disturb you." After bowing respectfully to the old man, Yi Fei walked in front of the sword steel and sat down cross-legged, preparing to attempt to comprehend it. A resplendent sword light was instantly released from Yi Fei's body and rushed into the sword steel. That was the will of the way of the sword that Yi Fei had condensed with his own spirit. It's actually sword intent. This child is also one of my generation. Unfortunately, his realm and talent are too low. It will be difficult for him to comprehend this sword steel. The sword fanatic elder said the word difficult 3 times. Finally, he sighed and completely immersed himself in cultivation. Even though he was cultivating, his gaze was fixed on the sword steel. It was as if he was using his own sword intent to communicate with the sword steel. However, the sword steel seemed to be very resistant to the sword fanatic elder's sword intent. Just by looking at it for a while, the sword fanatic elder's face turned red. He felt so uncomfortable that he was about to vomit blood. On the other side, Yi Fei's situation was not much better. When he injected his own will of the way of the sword into the sword steel, a terrifying spiritual pressure that could topple mountains and overturn seas came from within the sword steel. Thousands of terrifying sword lights began to appear in front of Yi Fei. Each sword light was filled with various kinds of will of the way of the sword. The strength of the first sacred master is indeed strong. How many types of sword intent has he comprehended? He actually fused them all together to form a spiritual intent. This is the true will of the sword. With my current strength and talent, there is no way I can comprehend it. Pooh! Yi Fei opened his mouth and spat out a large mouthful of blood. He had just comprehended the sword intent, and he had already received an invisible sword injury. If he continued to comprehend it, he might really end up like what the palace guarding elders said. He would become a sword fanatic. Not only would he not gain anything, he might even go berserk. He would turn his own way of the sword into the demonic path. Damn it! I finally got the chance to look at the sword steel. This is the best chance for me to improve my sword intent. No, I can't give up. If I give up now, I won't be able to grow in the future. I want to become stronger. I want to become stronger. I must step into the Star Moon Holy Land and take my sister back. Undying Sword Soul. Yes, since my talent is not enough to comprehend this sword steel, I will use the Undying Sword Soul to improve my comprehension. Yi Fei wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with a determined gaze. He stole a glance at the old man opposite him. He discovered that although the sword fanatic elder's face was red, he seemed to be immersed in comprehending the sword steel. If he didn't disturb him, the sword fanatic elder wouldn't pay too much attention to him. Without any hesitation, Yi Fei quickly took out the earth rank elixir and swallowed it. Although the Undying Sword Soul was becoming more and more picky with its food, the earth rank elixir still succeeded in awakening the dormant sword soul. Boom! The Undying Sword Soul absorbed the energy of the earth rank elixir in a single gulp, following which a large amount of black energy crazily surged out. Yi Fei hurriedly allowed the black energy to flow into his mind. A miraculous thing happened. His head, which was originally in intense pain, suddenly became incomparably clear. The originally dazzling sword steel also became gentle like a ray of white light. Thousands of sword images flashed before Yi Fei's eyes like flowing lights. They even carved out terrifying sword scars in the surrounding space. Every single one of these sword scars was enough to tear Yi Fei to pieces. However, with the terrifying comprehension raised by the Undying Sword Soul, Yi Fei was incomparably sharp. He captured every movement of these sword scars. They were like layers of irregular restrictions surrounding the sword steel, preventing anyone from entering the sword steel and comprehending it. Chapter 121. Chapter 121 Sword Mark. With the Undying Sword Soul's limitless comprehension, Yi Fei's comprehension of the sword steel was extremely fast. After all, the Undying Sword Soul was the pinnacle of the sword Tao. As long as the sword steel could not reach the level of a sword soul, it would not be able to stop Yi Fei from using the sword soul to comprehend it. So that's how it is. The first saint of the Taishan Holy Land was indeed a great swordsman. The sword gave birth to one gave birth to two gave birth to three, and three gave birth to thousands and thousands of swords. But no matter how many changes there were, they all remained the same. In the end, all swords returned to one. This sword steel represents the first saint's understanding of swordsmanship. There was a flash of understanding in Yi Fei's eyes. Boom! The sword light released from his body became even more resplendent. There was only one beam, but it already had the initial feeling of being able to transform into a myriad of swords. Yi Fei's cultivation level also began to loosen up as he comprehended his state of mind. Very naturally, he broke through without deliberately cultivating. He was now at the peak of the 8th level of the martial master realm. What Yi Fei felt regretful was that the increase in his cultivation level did not mean that he could break through the sword scars around the sword steel and truly come into contact with the core secrets of the sword steel. It was clear that these sword scars were deliberately left behind by the first Holy Master to protect the sword steel and test the later generations. Although Yi Fei could see through these sword scars with his strength, wanting to break through the seal of these sword scars and touch the sword steel's main body was still too difficult for him. He actually succeeded. He had actually done something that this old man could only do after sitting here for dozens of years. This person is indeed a kindred spirit with me. Sword Maniac Elder had already opened his eyes. He had been studying here for decades, so he knew the sword steel like the back of his hand. Just like Yi Fei, he realized that the sword marks around the sword steel were all protective restrictions. However, each of these sword scars had a different sword Dao will. If he wanted to break through them, he had to completely comprehend them. Sword Maniac Elder did not have a terrifying comprehension ability like Yi Fei's. All he could do was use the stupidest and most time-consuming method to observe the sword marks one by one and figure out their trajectories. However, this kind of deduction was too time-consuming. Sword Maniac Elder had been sitting here for 70 years and had only deduced half of it. If he wanted to complete the deduction, he would need another 70 years. To a warrior, time was the most precious thing. Wasting 140 years just to comprehend an unknown sword steel would have a huge impact on a warrior's realm and lifespan. It was only because Sword Maniac Elder had always been infatuated with the sword Dao that he dared to do such a thing. If it were any other elder, unless their brains were damaged, they would not do such a strenuous and unrewarding thing. However, Yi Fei's appearance and his successful activation of the sword steel's restrictions allowed Sword Fanatic Elder to see a glimmer of hope in breaking through those sword scars. Sword Elder, Sword Maniac Elder said, Sword Maniac Elder Sword Stare, Sword Soul Elder. His voice penetrated deep into Yi Fei's mind. It gave Yi Fei a fright. This Sword Maniac Elder is too terrifying. He can actually send his voice directly into my head. He can't discover my undying sword soul, right? Yi Fei instinctively looked into his dantian. Fortunately, the undying sword soul was very cunning. After eating the earth-level elixir, it disappeared into Yi Fei's body. It was in a state between existence and non-existence. Other than Yi Fei, no one else could sense it. After relaxing, Yi Fei said in his mind, "Yes, I can see these sword marks." "How much can you see?" Sword Maniac Elder asked again. "All of it." Yi Fei hesitated for a moment before telling the truth. He could sense that Sword Maniac Elder did not have any ill intentions towards him. He secretly opened an eye and looked into the distance. Sword Maniac Elder's eyes shone brightly, forming two terrifying sword beams. He stared intently at the sword steel in front of him. He had no intention of probing Yi Fei at all. Sword Maniac Elder was even more shocked when he heard that Yi Fei could see all of the sword marks. He originally wanted to ask how many sword marks Yi Fei could see, and if there were any sword marks that he could not see, so that the two of them could have an exchange. Who would have thought that Yi Fei's perception was so abnormal? He had only sat for a few hours, and he had already accomplished something that Sword Maniac Elder could not do even after sitting for 70 years. Then, Sword Maniac Elder was so happy that he wanted to laugh into the sky. Good. It's my good fortune to have met you. Why don't we work together? I have the ability to break through the sword marks, but I can't figure out the sword marks' trajectories. As for you, although you can figure out the trajectories, with your strength, any one of the sword marks here can shatter your mind. As long as we work together, we can break through the restriction in the shortest time possible and obtain the true secret of the sword steel. What do you think? Sword Maniac Elder was filled with anticipation. He was so excited that his entire body was trembling slightly. Yi Fei also gave a favorable answer after some simple consideration. "All right, Elder. I am willing to work together with you. However, how should we work together?" The sword marks around the sword steel had been carved by the first Divine Master. Given Yi Fei's strength as a martial master, he would die if he touched them. Sword Maniac Elder was different. This elder's strength was terrifying. He could actually send a mental message directly to Yi Fei. He should have the strength to break through the restriction. It's very simple. I will bring your sword intent and enter the sword steel's restriction. At that time, you just need to tell me where the sword marks are and remind me to avoid them. We will then be able to break through the restriction and obtain the sword steel's secret. Sword Maniac Elder continued to send a mental message. Yi Fei nodded subconsciously. All right. Immediately after, he felt the scene in his mind change. His entire consciousness had turned into a weak sword light and appeared in the middle of the dense sword marks. Then, another sword light that was as bright as a torch rushed in and enveloped him. Sword Maniac Elder continued to send a mental message. It turns out that you have comprehended the rare devouring sword intent. Not bad. It seems that there is hope for me to break through the restriction this time. Yi Fei smiled bitterly. Senior, you flatter me. Compared to you, I realize that I'm still a frog at the bottom of a well. Yi Fei's sword intent was just a small flame, while Sword Maniac Elder sword intent was already a blazing torch. This difference was really too great. Yi Fei was also shocked. What kind of strength did Sword Maniac Elder have? Not only was he able to send a mental message directly to him, but he was also able to forcefully pull his will into this restricted space that was filled with sword marks. The methods of the experts from the sacred lands were really unimaginable. Little friend, don't be in a daze. Hurry up and tell me where the sword marks in front are. When will they attack? While Yi Fei was still in a daze, Sword Maniac Elder had already wrapped Yi Fei with his sword intent and charged forward, breaking through more than half of the surrounding sword marks. This kind of strength left Yi Fei speechless. Then he felt a wave of dizziness. Damn, did this elder have to be so impatient? I wasn't ready yet, and he already forcefully brought me in. Now, the two of them were trapped in the middle of the sword marks. If they weren't careful, they would come into contact with the sword marks that were moving around like meteors. Sword Maniac Elder was strong and capable. At most, he would be seriously injured. If Yi Fei was so small, he would definitely be smashed to pieces and his body and soul would be destroyed. Helpless, Yi Fei could only brace himself and try his best to identify the trajectory of the sword marks around him. Elder, be careful. There is a flaming sword mark ahead, and behind us, there is an icy sword mark. There are also 3 unknown sword marks chasing after us. Chapter 122. 20% sword intent. When Sword Maniac Elder heard Yi Fei's words, he laughed heartily. Don't worry, my young friend. As long as you tell me the exact location of the sword scars, I guarantee that you will be unharmed. The underlying meaning behind his words was that if he spoke wrongly or too slowly, he would die in a matter of minutes. Yi Fei pursed his lips. He suddenly felt like he had boarded a pirate ship. Who said that this elder was only obsessed with the way of the sword. However, for the sake of his own life, Yi Fei did not dare to be careless. He could only widen his eyes and stare intently at every sword scar that could approach him. At this moment, he finally witnessed Sword Maniac Elder's sword intent. It was a unique sword intent that pressed forward and never looked back. His sword was like his person. Once he set his mind on something, he would never look back, even if he had to be crushed to pieces. Boom! The Sword Maniac Elder carried Yi Fei's sword intent and rampaged through the sword scars. He didn't care about the sword intents that were chasing after him. He was incomparably tyrannical as he smashed the fiery sword intents in front of him into pieces and continued to charge forward. Senior, look to your left. 2 more black sword intents are charging over. They have a very terrifying, evil aura. Yi Fei hurriedly reminded him. 2. Sword Maniac Elder was a little surprised. However, he could not sense it now. Once his sword was out, he could not turn back. Sword Maniac Elder followed Yi Fei's intuition and turned his sword light to slash twice to the left. Boom! Boom! The entire sword steel trembled slightly. The 2 black sword intents were actually destroyed by Sword Maniac Elder in an instant. Yi Fei was finally relieved. Only then did he believe that he could really break through these restrictions by joining forces with this elder. Sword Maniac Elder was so happy that he laughed continuously. He was really overjoyed. Although he was not perceptive enough and could not see the remaining sword scars, Yi Fei could see them clearly. This way, he could completely unleash his strength. With Sword Maniac Elder's strength, as long as he was not surrounded by numerous sword scars, he was completely capable of breaking through these restrictions. Senior left. Right? Damn, those sword scars at the back are haunting me, aren't they? Yi Fei also constantly reminded Sword Fanatic Elder about the trajectory of the sword scars around them. With the two of them working together, the extremely dangerous sword scars, which were covered with layers of restrictions, did not harm them at all. When the last sword mark was shattered by Sword Maniac Elder's sword light, an ancient sword sound suddenly rang out in Yi Fei's mind. Yi Fei couldn't understand those voices at all. Sword Maniac Elder didn't burn the bridge after crossing it. Instead, he explained to Yi Fei, "This is sword language. Once you comprehend sword heart, you will understand. Just now, when I transmitted my voice to you, I relied on my sword heart." Then what did this holy lord say? Is it a sword technique chant? Yi Fei asked with interest. Indeed, this is a powerful sword technique that has been lost in our sacred land for countless years. I have waited for 70 years and finally obtained it. However, this is all thanks to you. The sword technique is too powerful, so I can't teach it to you. Then, I'll give you this spiritual sword intent that the Holy Lord left behind. As Sword Maniac Elder spoke, his closed eyes suddenly opened. He then stood up and pointed with his hand. The sword scars around the sword steel were all shattered. Most of the shattered sword scars disappeared. Only a particularly bright sword light was grabbed by Sword Maniac Elder and shot into Yi Fei's mind. That piercing pain made Yi Fei's head feel like it was going to explode. How terrifying was a Holy Lord's spiritual intent, even if it had been weakened for countless years and was only left with a sword light. If Yi Fei hadn't relied on the undying sword soul to greatly increase his comprehension, Sword Maniac Elder's reckless actions would have killed Yi Fei. Fortunately, the medicinal properties of the Earth Rank pills were especially strong. By relying on them, the black energy converted by the undying sword soul still hadn't been used up. Yi Fei hurriedly used all of this black energy, madly continuing to increase his perception. This way, he indeed felt that the piercing pain in his mind had already disappeared. Following that, a large amount of complicated information flowed into his mind. This was the first generation Holy Lord's early comprehension of the Tao of the sword. After absorbing this knowledge, Yi Fei felt as if he had experienced dozens or even hundreds of years of Tao of the sword cultivation. Clang! Like Sword Maniac Elder, rays of terrifying sword light appeared on his body. In the end, these rays of sword light gathered to form a terrifying black hole that was twice as big as before. Devouring intent, 20% sword intent. Yi Fei opened his eyes. He couldn't believe that his sword intent had increased by 20% just by merging with the remnant spiritual consciousness of Sacred Lord. Previously, with 10% sword intent, Yi Fei had been able to forcefully Xiao Tian, who was a first-layer martial ancestor realm, to retreat. Now that he had 20% sword intent, didn't that mean that he had the strength to fight against a second-layer or third-layer martial ancestor realm expert? This was a qualitative leap. It seems like I'm one step closer to the mission the Demon Emperor gave me. Yi Fei clenched his fists tightly. His face was filled with excitement. Thank you, Senior. Yi Fei stood up and bowed respectfully to Sword Maniac Elder. He didn't forget that he had been able to improve so quickly because of Sword Maniac Elder. My friend, there's no need to be so courteous. Speaking of which, I should be the one thanking you. Without your help, I might not have been able to comprehend this sword steel, even if I sat here for another 70 years. Sword Maniac Elder also stood up. His face was filled with vicissitudes and emotions. For 70 years, I've sat here and never stood up. I've been ridiculed by my fellow disciples. Even my original name has been forgotten. Everyone calls me Sword Maniac. I'm a maniac, but I have no regrets. I'm so crazy that it's true. Boom! As he spoke, the terrifying rays of sword light that had filled Sword Maniac Elder's body completely disappeared. Even the moss and filth on his body disappeared. The rock that had been sitting in a lotus position for 70 years turned into white sand when the Sword Maniac Elder stood up. Yifei secretly clicked his tongue when he saw this. This elder was truly a maniac. However, his maniacal nature made others respect him and ponder deeply. Sword Maniac Elder could no longer sense any sword intent from him. However, his entire body was sword intent as he stood there. Although there was only one sword intent, it was ever-changing and indomitable. Once the sword was out, it would never turn back. This was Sword Maniac Elder's sword. Congratulations, Elder. You've reached greater mastery of the sword Tao. Yifei bowed again and said sincerely. He knew that Sword Maniac Elder must have comprehended the supreme sword technique on the sword steel. Returning to the origin, 10,000 swords returned to one, reaching the great accomplishment of the sword Tao. Sword Maniac Elder laughed. His laughter was somewhat bitter. There's no end to the Tao. My sword Tao still has a long way to go. However, my young friend, your perception is amazing. Although your talent and strength are very low, you still have the possibility of becoming a powerhouse in the future. My young friend, let me ask you, are you willing to take me as your master? Sword Maniac Elder had discovered Yifei's heaven-defying perception. He was greatly fond of Yifei and wanted to take him in so that the two of them could comprehend the sword Tao together. Yifei's expression stiffened. Take you as my master? It wasn't that he wasn't tempted, but it was already impossible. After all, he had already taken the Demon Emperor as his master. Although he and the Demon Emperor were just making use of each other, a master for a day was a master for life. The Demon Emperor hadn't harmed him. Instead, he had helped him escape and given him the powerful Demon Emperor Sutra. Without the Demon Emperor Sutra, Yifei would have been killed by Li Xiaotian back in Wu Province. He wouldn't have been able to make it to the sacred land alive. The kindness of a drop of water should be repaid with a gushing spring. The Demon Emperor has been kind to me, so I have to take him as my master. Yifei thought to himself. At the same time, he raised his head and looked apologetically at Sword Maniac Elder. He was about to say something when an angry voice was heard not too far away. Chapter 123. I am Yifei. Ouyang Jie waited outside for a few days, but he still didn't see Yifei come out of the skills library. He couldn't help but feel anxious. Elder Tianyin, why hasn't he come out after going in for a few days? We can't keep waiting here, right? Ouyang Jie's expression was unkind. As the young master of the Ouyang family, Ouyang Jie was well informed in the Taishan Holy Land. Of course, he knew that the hottest topic in the outer sanctum of the Taishan Holy Land these days was that Ouyang Jie had lost to Yifei and lost a year's worth of cultivation resources. Of course, Ouyang Jie couldn't tolerate something like this. He couldn't wait to get back at Yifei. Similarly, after waiting for a few days, Elder Tianyin's expression was also very unsightly. He simply walked over and asked the guardian elder, Senior Brother Chun, why hasn't that brat come out after so long? That kid went to the side hall to comprehend the sword steel. If you want to find him, go ahead. As long as you don't disturb Martial Uncle Sword Maniac's cultivation, it's fine, said the guardian elder. What? He actually went to the sword steel? It seems like this kid is not only arrogant, but also overestimating his own capabilities. With his little talent, he wants to comprehend the sword steel? I think he's most likely a fool. Elder Heavenly Flame sneered when he heard that Yifei wanted to comprehend the strange sword steel. Ouyang Jie stood aside and asked curiously, Elders, what is a sword steel? Is it very powerful? The palace guarding elder sized up Ouyang Jie and said with a satisfied smile, Rank 5D ranked Dantian. You're pretty good. You have a great chance of becoming a martial king in the future. Work hard. Yes, thank you for your advice, Elder. Ouyang Jie was flattered, and there was a trace of pride on his face. His Dantian was a 5th grade Earth-ranked Dantian, something he was most proud of. It was a pity that he didn't get the talent crystal that could increase the quality of his dantian. Even the earth-level elixir that he had obtained with great difficulty had been snatched away by Yi Fei. Ouyang Jia was deeply resentful about this. Elder Tian Yin was also aware of Ouyang Jia's resentment. He was also very optimistic about Ouyang Jia's talent. He knew that with Ouyang Jia's talent, as long as he trained in the outer sect, he would definitely enter the inner sect. As for Yi Fei, with his Earth Tier 1 talent, if he didn't have any fortuitous encounters, he would be the same as him for the rest of his life. At most, he would be able to become an elder in the outer sect. Comparing the two, Elder Heavenly Flame naturally knew which side he should stand on. Elder Tian Yin said to Ouyang Jia with a pleasant expression, "Ouyang Jia, since that kid went to the Sword Steel, then there shouldn't be a problem. That is the forbidden area of the Skills Method Hall, and there are restrictions all around. No matter how big the commotion is, there shouldn't be a problem. Heavenly Flame, this isn't good. Sword Maniac Uncle is also cultivating over there." Elder Tian Yin reminded. When he saw the attitude of Heavenly Flame and Ouyang Jia, he knew they were going to cause trouble. Elder Tian Yin smiled sinisterly. "Isn't that good? That martial uncle has been sitting under the Sword Steel for 70 years. Aside from the Sword Steel, he won't care about anything else." Ouyang Jia understood the meaning of Elder Tian Yan's words, so he also smiled sinisterly. "Isn't it the trash that I can fix as I wish inside?" Ouyang Jia was already rolling up his sleeves, ready to teach Yi Fei a lesson. "You too ah." Elder Tian Yin shook his head and sighed. On one side was a 5th-grade Earth-tier genius and elder, and on the other side was a hothead who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. This old man suddenly remembered that there are still some miscellaneous things that need to be taken care of in the Skills Method Hall. This old man will leave for a while. "Junior brother Heavenly Flame, I'll have to trouble you to keep an eye on things here." Elder Tian Yin turned around and left with a deep meaning. His and Elder Tian Yin's indulgence had made Ouyang Jia's courage very big. Yi Fei wanted to tactfully refuse Elder Tian Yin's request, but before he could say anything, Ouyang Jia had already walked over angrily and scolded him. What a pitiful child. Yi Fei looked at Ouyang Jia and shook his head helplessly. He even deliberately took a step back and stood behind Elder Tian Yin. Elder Tian Yin was a kind person. Yi Fei had helped him comprehend the Sword Steel, so he was very grateful to Yi Fei. Not to mention, Elder Tian Yin was very optimistic about Yi Fei's comprehension ability. Seeing someone actually daring to scold Yi Fei, Elder Tian Yin was very unhappy. Glaring at Ouyang Jia, he said, "Who is your master? Didn't he teach you how to speak to others?" "Impudent old man, who are you? I'm talking to this piece of trash. Is there any room for you to interrupt?" Ouyang Jia said haughtily. Ouyang Jia, who had the support of Elder Tian Yin and was a 5th-grade Earth-grade genius himself, was indeed very arrogant. However, he had really kicked an iron plate this time. When he heard Ouyang Jia address Elder Tian Yin as an old man, Yi Fei silently mourned for this pitiful child. "I'm impudent?" Elder Tian Yin was so angry that his beard was trembling. His sword-like eyes immediately locked onto Elder Tian Yin, who was walking over from behind. "Xiongji, is this your disciple?" Boom! Elder Tian Yin felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Not only had Elder Tian Yin stood up to protect Yi Fei, but he had also called out his secular name. Elder Tian Yin was so scared that he almost froze. Then, he was scared out of his wits. What had Ouyang Jia just said? He had actually addressed this person as an old man that even intersect elders had to respectfully address as Uncle Master. "Ouyang Jia, why aren't you shutting up? What are you saying with your filthy mouth, huh? Don't you know that this is Uncle Master Sword Maniac? Hurry up and kneel down and apologize to Uncle Master." The speed at which Elder Tian Yin changed his expression had reached the pinnacle. Yi Fei's horizons had been broadened. Poor child Ouyang Jia hadn't even understood what was going on before he was scolded by Elder Tian Yin. After scolding him, Elder Tian Yin reached out and pressed his hand down. Then, he and Ouyang Jie knelt down before Elder Tianyan. Yi Fei also took advantage of this opportunity to stand shoulder to shoulder with Elder Tianyan. Originally, Ouyang Jie had only been kneeling before Elder Tianyan. Now that Yi Fei had also stood up, it looked like Ouyang Jie was also kneeling before Yi Fei. Ouyang Jie was instantly infuriated. Elder Tianyan's face was filled with fear as he repeatedly apologized. Uncle Master, this disciple didn't mean to offend you. Please forgive me. Ouyang Jie, hurry up and apologize. Uncle Master Sword Maniac, I'm sorry. When Ouyang Jie saw how frightened Elder Tianyan was, how could he not know that he had unintentionally offended a big shot? Thus, he hurriedly apologized. Elder Tianyan snorted coldly and said, You shouldn't apologize to me. You should apologize to this young friend. Oh, right? May I ask for your name? Elder Sword Maniac spoke to Yi Fei cordially. Just him calling him little friend made Elder Heaven Flame's eyes turn red with envy. He was secretly shocked. Yi Fei was actually able to form a relationship with the famous sword maniac of the Holy Land. And the most terrifying thing was that sword maniac had actually stood up from the ground. Senior, my name is Yi Fei. Yi Fei cupped his hands and said, What? You're that evil demon Yi Fei? Ouyang Jie was so shocked that he almost jumped up. His eyes were filled with anger and shock for being deceived. But before he could really stand up, an invisible pressure pressed down on Ouyang Jie and Elder Tianyan, making them unable to move. Elder Tianyan had made his move. When he heard Yi Fei only address him as senior without any intention of becoming his disciple, Elder Tianyan's face revealed clear disappointment. He asked in a deep voice, Then, young friend, how do you think we should deal with these two? It's all up to senior. This disciple will follow your orders, Yi Fei said respectfully. Then let them kneel here for a day and a night as punishment. Elder Tianyan snorted coldly. Obviously, he was also a ruthless person in the Taishan Holy Land. Only Ouyang Jie and Elder Tianyan were left. They stared at each other, their faces ashen and humiliated as they knelt where they were, unable to move at all. Chapter 124. To set up a conspiracy, Yi Fei followed Sword Maniac Elder out. Strangely, he didn't see the Palace Guard Elder. He didn't know that the Palace Guard Elder knew that Ouyang Jie wanted to teach him a lesson. Just like Elder Heavenly Flame, in order to befriend the future Martial King, Ouyang Jie, he left in advance. Well, the Taishan Holy Land is getting more and more outrageous. Elder Sword Maniac snorted and nodded to Yi Fei. Little friend, since you're unwilling to take me as your master, I won't force you. However, your talent and cultivation level are too low. In the Holy Land, it's inevitable that some rascals will bully you. Take this token. If anyone dares to bully you, you can ask any Intercourt Elder for help. After thinking for a while, the Sword Maniac Elder felt that he did not repay Xiao Chun enough. Embarrassed, he took out a sword manual and said, This is a superior grade Earth-ranked sword technique, the Hellfire Sword. Your sword intent leans toward the demonic Tao, and you have merged with a divine flame from beyond the heavens. You should be very suitable for this sword technique. Hellfire Sword? Yi Fei's eyes lit up. Just from the name alone, he could tell that this sword art was extraordinary. Moreover, it was an earth-grade, upper-grade sword art. Thank you, senior. Yi Fei took it with a face full of joy. Seeing that Yi Fei was so happy with such a sword art, Sword Fanatic blushed a little. It was obvious that he was a kind person. Compared to the help that Yi Fei had given him, Sword Maniac Elder felt that even an Earth-tier sword technique was far from enough. Especially with Yi Fei's terrifying comprehension ability, Sword Maniac Elder thought highly of him. Therefore, he kept this gift in mind. Haha, little friend, you don't have to thank me. Cultivate well in the sacred ground. When you've thought it through, you can come to the Sword Peak at any time to be my disciple and exchange swordsmanship with me. I welcome you. After saying this, Elder Sword Maniac turned and flew away, not giving Yi Fei a chance to refuse. This Elder Sword Maniac was like his sword. Once he said something, he would never take it back. Yifei looked at the sword maniac elder who was walking in the sky. His eyes flashed with envy. When would he be able to walk in the sky like this elder? However, Zephyr was the dividing line between the strong and the weak. Those who could fly were definitely experts. Those who couldn't, no matter how strong they were ultimately just mortals. Yifei did not want to be immortal, so he could only rise up and transcend the barriers of this world. However, it won't be long. I'm now in the 8th level of the Martial Master Realm. As long as I work harder, I'll be able to break through to the Martial Ancestor Realm. At that time, I'll be able to learn flying martial skills. Even if I can't truly fly, I'll be able to fly for a short period of time. Yifei retracted his gaze. He carefully put away the sword manual and turned to leave. Ouyang Jie and Elder Tian Yin were still kneeling in front of the sword steel, their bodies stiff. Sword Maniac Elder had placed restrictions on their bodies, so they wouldn't be able to stand up for at least a day. This immediately infuriated Ouyang Jie and Heavenly Flame Elder. They didn't have the guts to blame Sword Maniac Elder, so they placed all their hatred on Yifei's head. After kneeling for a while, they reckoned that Sword Maniac Elder had already left. Ouyang Jie's face darkened. He was so angry that black smoke came out of his nostrils and ears as he roared at Elder Tian Yin. Elder Tian Yin, is this what you meant by compensating me properly? Are you going to compensate me by kneeling in front of someone in the skills technique hall? I can't take it anymore. I must kill that trash. Ouyang Jie, are you crazy? Yifei is being watched over by Sword Maniac Elder. If you touch him, the entire outer sect won't be able to protect you. Elder Heavenflame was shocked. Now, he was a bit regretful. He shouldn't have looked down on Yifei like a dog. If he had been a little more courteous to Yifei, he wouldn't have ended up like this. I don't care. I just want to kill him. If the outer sect is unreliable, then I will go to the inner sect. Don't forget that the Ouyang family has a certain amount of power even among the true disciples, let alone the inner sect. Ouyang Jie's words made Elder Tian Yan's expression change. You have connections with the true disciples? Of course. The Ouyang family once saved a talented young man. That young man had a relationship with a member of the Ouyang family. It was also because of the Ouyang family that he was able to join the Holy Land and get to where he is today, step by step. Ouyang Jie revealed this secret. Elder Tian Yin immediately looked at Ouyang Jie in a new light. He praised, I see. I was wondering how the Ouyang family had developed so quickly. In just 100 years, you have developed into the #1 family in Taishan City. It turns out that you have the support of the true disciples. Ouyang Jie smiled sinisterly and said, Elder Tian Yin, do you think I can kill that trash now? Yes. Why not? That Yifei dared to offend you, young Master Ouyang. He is simply courting death. Young Master Ouyang, tell me, how are you going to kill him? Elder Tian Yin said sinisterly. He immediately changed the way he addressed Elder Tian Yin, from Ouyang Jie to young Master Ouyang. Elder Tian Yin's tone was smooth. Ouyang Jie's mood improved a little. He felt that kneeling on the ground was not so humiliating. After all, no one was watching. Ouyang Jie said, Isn't the ranking battle for the new disciples going to be held soon? At that time, I will let that trash know what I am capable of. But at that time, I will need the cooperation of the elders. Of course. As for the outer sect, I will inform the senior brothers in advance. Young Master Ouyang, don't worry about it. Elder Tian Yin did not hesitate. In his opinion, the reason Ouyang Jie had suffered at the hands of Yifei twice was because Ouyang Jie was unlucky. The first time at the Fei Memorial Pagoda, he did not expect Yifei to cheat to clear the stage. This time at the Skills Hall, he did not expect Yifei to use some unknown method to win the favor of Elder Tian Yin. Of course, in terms of true strength, Elder Tian Yin believed that even Tin Yifei added together could not compare to a single hair on Ouyang Jie's body. With such a huge gap between the two, Elder Tian Yin naturally knew how to choose. You are Yifei. I heard that you practice demonic cultivation techniques and have been ordered to be killed by Zhao. How dare you sneak into our sacred land? When Yi Fei arrived at the achievement hall and prepared to register his identity as a new disciple, he indeed ran into trouble. The moment his name was reported, the registration elder was enraged. He almost thought that Yi Fei was a demon and wanted to kill him. After all, the sacred land and the demons had always been sworn enemies. If Yi Fei joined the sacred land with the identity of a demon, even if he was the newcomer king who cleared the stage, he would still be kicked out of the sacred land. At this moment, Yi Fei finally realized how brilliant Zhao's Empress Dowager's methods were. Unfortunately, no matter how brilliant her methods were, they were all futile in the face of absolute strength. Besides, Yi Fei was not just powerful. He also had an imperial sword in his hands, which was enough for him to do whatever he wanted in the sacred land. You're not registering me? How dare you, demon, sneak into our sacred land and spout such nonsense? Men, capture this demon for me. Following the elder's cold shout, the disciples who had long been eager to rush forward and kill Yi Fei. Their achievements were fake. After killing Yi Fei, they would marry the princess. That was the real goal of this group of people. Many of them were already muttering Zhao Yu's name and were about to charge over. Yi Fei sighed. She was indeed a femme fatale. Fortunately, the sword maniac elder was a kind person who had helped him before he left. Hold on. Before you decide that I'm a demon, take a look at what this is. Yi Fei took out the token and threw it at the elder's face. The elder was enraged as he scolded Yi Fei. Demon, how dare you be so arrogant? Do you want to force us to attack you? Junior brother, don't be rash. This looks like the sword token of Sword Peak. Seeing the token is the same as seeing the person. A sharp-eyed elder caught the token that Yi Fei had thrown at him and examined it carefully. After confirming that it was indeed a sword token, he immediately looked at Yi Fei in shock. You actually obtained the sword token of Uncle Master Sword Maniac? The elder who had scolded Yi Fei was also dumbfounded, even though the sword token had not appeared for 70 years. Chapter 125. Senior sister's advice just a moment ago. The two elders wanted to kill Yi Fei, but now they immediately became fearful of Yi Fei. This made them hesitate. Elder, are we still going to capture this evil demon? A disciple who didn't like Yi Fei went up and asked. As Zhao Yu's beauty spread, the scandal that the demon Yi Fei had tried to violate Zhao Yu also spread. Many disciples in the Holy Land were eager to kill Yi Fei and complete Zhao's kill order so that they could win the beauty's heart. But this time, the disciples' bootlicking had clearly hit the nail on the head. Just the sword token that Yi Fei had thrown out had given them quite a fright. There was still someone who wanted to deal with Yi Fei. The elder immediately lifted his leg and sent the disciple flying with a kick. Scram! It's all because of you bastards who spread rumors. Do you think that this elder can't see through your lies? Yi Fei is clearly an outstanding disciple of our Holy Land, yet you've slandered him as a demon. Ahem. Yi Fei, you need an identity token, right? Here, this is your identity token. Take it. If you have any difficulties, feel free to tell our elders. We will definitely help you. The second elder was even more decisive. He had already prepared Yi Fei's identity token on the spot with the fastest speed possible. Then, he placed a bottle of top-quality pills in Yi Fei's disciple robes without leaving a trace. This was to clear up the misunderstanding just now. Yi Fei was speechless. He finally knew how Elder Heavenly Flame's face-changing ability was trained to the peak. In the end, it turned out that changing faces was a skill that the outer elders of the sanctum had to master. As expected, it wasn't easy no matter where one went. Thank you very much, Elder. When I have time, I will tell Senior Sword Maniac about the two elders' care for me. Yi Fei accepted the bottle of pills without any hesitation and left with his clothes. The two elders also immediately revealed an expression that said that a child could be taught. They even disregarded their reputation and personally escorted Yi Fei out of the achievement hall. Those who were still thinking of plotting against Yi Fei began to mutter in their hearts. They began to weigh whether it was worth it to continue opposing Yi Fei. However, There were even more people who were beating their feet and stomping their chests, pointing at the sky and cursing the earth while complaining to each other. It's all because of that damn 4 eyebrows. Yeah, we originally suspected that this kid could be Fei, but that guy with 4 eyebrows was too narcissistic. We didn't even want to get close to him. In the end, we missed a great opportunity. However, what is the relationship between Yi Fei and Zhao Yu? The two of them must have some unspeakable secret. I really want to expose it. In any case, they were experts at the peak of the 8th grade martial master. When these discussions reached Yi Fei's ears, he felt very gloomy. Indeed, rumors and slanders could kill people. However, these discussions reminded Yi Fei that he didn't know how Wang Bai was doing. If it hadn't been for Wang Bai's advice about the sword steel in the skills hall, he wouldn't have gotten to know the sword maniac elder. He also wouldn't have benefited greatly from this senior's glory. 20% sword intent was more precious than any Earth-grade martial technique. Furthermore, the sword maniac elder had directly given him an Earth-grade sword technique before leaving. Yi Fei decided that he had to properly thank Wang Bai. While the 2 elders were sending him out, he inquired, "By the way, elders, do you know where Wang Bai's residence is?" "You mean that guy with 4 eyebrows? The extremely narcissistic new disciple who makes people want to beat him up every time they see him? I think it should be him." Yi Fei didn't expect that Wang Bai was already so famous in the Sacred Land. He lives in courtyard number 357, which is the mountain closest to the Sacred Land's periphery. "You can find his residence if you go there directly," an elder said. Yi Fei nodded. After bidding farewell to the 2 elders, he rushed to Wang Bai's residence. However, he saw that the door was tightly shut. There was even a sign hanging at the door that said, "Please do not disturb him." Knowing that Wang Bai might be breaking through, Yi Fei didn't want to disturb him. He could only turn around and leave. He planned to look for Wang Bai after he finished cultivating. In any case, the ranking battle for the new disciples was in a few days. The old mansion master had told him this in detail when he was in Wu province. Passing the Sacred Land's assessment was only the first step. The second step was the ranking battle for the new disciples. After that, the Sacred Land would train the new disciples to different degrees according to their strength. Of course, the higher the ranking in the ranking battle, the corresponding degree of care that Yi Fei's Tianyan Wufu would receive from the Sacred Land. Therefore, Yi Fei had made up his mind that he would not only participate in the ranking battle this time, but also get a good ranking. In this way, the Zhao Kingdom's royal family wouldn't dare to attack Tianyan Wufu and the family Yi. I wonder how Uncle Jian and the others are living in Wu province. Yi Fei muttered to himself. Seeing that Wang Bai had started to cultivate hard for the ranking battle, Yi Fei felt that he had to hurry up as well. "Yi Fei, over here." Suddenly, a gentle voice called out to Yi Fei. The person who walked over was Zhao Yu. Beside her was a woman who looked similar to her. Her appearance was only slightly inferior to Zhao Yu's. She was wearing a palace dress and had an extraordinary aura. At first glance, one could tell that she was from the royal family. When she saw that Zhao Yu was greeting Yi Fei, who was dressed in ordinary clothes, a look of disdain flashed across the woman's face. However, Zhao Yu had been found to have a special constitution as soon as she entered the Sacred Land. She was highly valued by the Sacred Land, so the woman in the palace dress couldn't say anything to her face. "Princess, what's the matter?" Yi Fei felt his scalp go numb when he saw that it was Zhao Yu. He couldn't afford to offend this kind of femme fatale. Why couldn't he avoid her? "Can I talk to you if there's nothing?" Zhao Yu was very dissatisfied with Yi Fei's attitude. She and Zhao were the only people who had entered the Sacred Land this time. Moreover, the 2 of them had come from Tianyan Wufu together. If she didn't talk to Yi Fei, was she supposed to talk to a stranger? However, it was obvious that Zhao Yu wasn't here just to talk to Yi Fei. Zhao Yu looked at Yi Fei worriedly and said, "Yi Fei, I heard that Ouyang Jia is waiting for you at the skills library. How are you? Are you okay?" Do I look like I'm not okay?" It was Ouyang Jia who was so pitiful. He had accidentally kicked an iron plate. He was probably still kneeling there with Elder Tianyan. However, these words were too shocking, so Yi Fei didn't say anything. Zhao Yu didn't ask further. She only warned Yi Fei seriously. In any case, you have to be careful. If necessary, I will also help you. Understanding that Zhao Yu was concerned about him, Yi Fei couldn't help but change his impression of Zhao Yu. This crazy woman's nature was a little cruel, but she wasn't a bad person. If she wasn't so devastatingly beautiful, they could be friends. By the way, this is senior sister Lu Ting. Senior sister took care of me when I entered the sacred land. Zhao Yu introduced the woman beside her to Yi Fei. When Lu Ting heard this, she smiled gracefully and said, "Junior sister, what are you talking about? Even without me, with your beauty and natural talent, you'll definitely be valued by the hallowed grounds. Right? Master is in a hurry to see you. Go over quickly. I want to speak with junior brother Yi alone." Chapter 126. Luo, she, senior sister Lu, what do you want to tell me? Yi Fei felt a little strange. This Lu Ting was clearly an old disciple of the Holy Land. What matter could she have that she wanted to speak to him alone? Lu Ting continued to smile sweetly and used a very legitimate reason to send Zhao Yu away. Then her face suddenly turned cold. She looked at Yi Fei very coldly and said, "Don't call me senior sister. I don't have a junior brother like you who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Yi Fei, I don't care what relationship you had with Zhao Yu in the past, but in the future, don't get close to Zhao Yu. Do you understand? Are you threatening me?" Yi Fei raised his eyebrows. There was nothing between him and Zhao Yu. At most, they were just friends. But this Lu Ting actually said such words. That was a bit too much. Lu Ting looked at Yi Fei disdainfully and said, "This is not a threat, but a warning. You're just mud on the ground. What about junior sister Zhao Yu? She's a phoenix in the sky. Do you know that Zhao Yu has a special physique? As long as she grows up, she'll definitely enter the inner sect and become the backbone of our holy land. But what about you? You're just an ordinary cultivator. You don't have any special physique, and your talent is only average. What you shouldn't have done the most is offend the Ouyang Jia. I told you not to get close to junior sister Zhao Yu for her own good. You don't wish for junior sister Zhao Yu to be implicated by you and be hated by the Ouyang Jia, right?" Lu Ting looked at Yi Fei's expression and did not hide her disgust and contempt. He even raised his head proudly. Yi Fei was not angry, but his anger was aroused. He did not know Lu Ting. Why did this woman use such a tone to teach him when they met? Let's not talk about the fact that I have nothing to do with Zhao Yu. Even if I did, it's my freedom to talk to whoever I want. Why do you have to be so talkative? Yi Fei was too lazy to pay attention to a snobbish woman like Lu Ting. He turned around and was about to leave. Lu Ting was furious. Her sharp nails almost poked the back of Yi Fei's head. She scolded, You actually call me a long-tongued woman. Do you have any manners? A toad actually wants to eat swan meat. If a person like you can grow up, I, Lu Ting, am willing to call you senior brother. Forget it. With a pair of dog-eyed junior sister like you, I'm afraid that I'll vomit every time you bark. The Ouyang Jia must have given you a lot of benefits. Yi Fei turned around and looked at Lu Ting calmly. He was too lazy to be angry. The best way to deal with this kind of woman was to ignore her. Nonsense. I'm thinking for my junior sister. You have no evidence at all. Lu Ting was a little hysterical because of the stimulation. Yes, she received benefits from the Ouyang Jia. That's why she didn't like Yi Fei everywhere. She also wanted Yi Fei to disappear from Zhao Yu's side. That's why she threatened him. Who knew that Yi Fei didn't care at all? He even mocked her fiercely. Lu Ting couldn't stand it. She gritted her teeth and stomped her feet. Lu Ting sneered at Yi Fei's back. You're just a toad. Do you deserve to fight with the Ouyang Jia? Wait until the new disciple ranking battle. I'll see how you die. Lu Ting also left angrily. Not only did he not find Wang Bai, but he was also disturbed by an inexplicable woman. Yi Fei was still a little upset in his heart. As the new disciple ranking battle approached, Yi Fei found that there were very few new disciples wandering out on the road. Most of them were hiding in their rooms, practicing hard, and striving to get a good result in the ranking battle. Yi Fei was no exception. This ranking battle is not only related to me. It's also related to my family Yi and Tianyan Wufu's safety. I must do my best and strive to get the best result. Yifei clenched his fists. He followed the instructions on the token and found the residence assigned to him by the sacred land. Compared to the large shared rooms of the odd job workers in Wu province, the residence of the outer sect disciples of the sacred land was very good. It was a small courtyard where two people could live. If he worked a little harder, he could enter the inner sect. Not only would he have a large courtyard by himself, but it was also said that he would be able to cultivate in a cave full of spirit chi. This was also the reason why many outer sect disciples, including the elders, were eager to enter the inner sect. Yifei also looked forward to it. When he walked into the courtyard, his other roommate happened to come out from the room next door. When he saw Yifei coming in with new clothes, that roommate was obviously stunned. "Hello, I'm Yifei." Yifei took the initiative to introduce himself. They were all going to be neighbors in the future, so they had to maintain a good relationship. "What? You're Yifei, the demon?" That roommate's face was full of shock. After a while, he came to his senses and replied coldly, "I'm Luo Shi, one of the top 10 geniuses among the new disciples." Luo Shi did not say one more thing. Based on Yifei's strength, he could also be ranked in the top 10. Unfortunately, he had offended Ouyang Jie. In the eyes of most of the new disciples, Yifei was already a dead man who would be killed by Ouyang Jie sooner or later. Therefore, everyone automatically ignored Yifei's ranking. "Oh, Brother Jean, nice to meet you." Yifei did not have much interest in geniuses and the like. He just calmly cupped his hands and was about to return to his room. Luo Shi could not hold it in any longer. After hesitating for a moment, he still opened his mouth and stopped Yifei. "Yifei, I don't know where you got the courage to offend Ouyang Jie to this extent. Since we still have time, I advise you to hurry up and apologize to Ouyang Jie and apologize." "I didn't do anything wrong." "Why should I apologize?" Yifei continued calmly. Ignoring Luo Shi, he pushed open the door and walked in on his own. Luo Shi's face alternated between green and white. He looked a little ugly. This Yifei is really arrogant and ignorant. It doesn't matter if he is arrogant, but he better not drag me down with him. This won't do. I have to hurry up and find an elder and fight for a change of dormitory. When he saw that Yifei was determined to fight with Ouyang Jie, Luo Shi did not think highly of Yifei at all. He was even more afraid that he would be embroiled in a fight between the two of them. Luo Shi wanted to change dormitories to avoid this dispute. After entering his room, Yifei did not even have time to change his clothes. He just sat down cross-legged on the floor and got ready to start cultivating. Just as he was about to receive his identity token, the two elders gave him a bottle of supreme grade pills in order to get on his good side, or perhaps to curry favor with the sword fanatic elder behind him. Given the undying sword soul's current appetite, these pills would not be worth absorbing. However, to Yifei, these pills were the fastest way to increase his strength. These are supreme grade soul-gathering pills. These are good stuff. Yifei opened the bottle and took a whiff. His eyes lit up. Soul-gathering pills were the best pills for a martial master to increase one's cultivation base. Given the quality of his D grade, 1 dantian, it would be easy for him to quickly refine these pills. After swallowing the bottle of soul-gathering pills, Yifei started cultivating according to the Demon Emperor Sutra's cultivation technique. Chapter 127. Ranking battle. At this moment, it was clear how important it was for a warrior to possess a profound cultivation technique. In the past, Yifei had cultivated the Wu province's low-grade profound level desert gale incantation. Even after fusing with the extraterrestrial divine flame and causing his genuine chi to mutate, it would still take him 2 hours to refine a top-grade pill. However, it was different with the Devil Emperor's scripture. After all, it was the Devil Emperor's strongest cultivation technique. The complete version of the Devil Emperor's scripture was definitely a cultivation technique above the heaven class. Yifei used this kind of cultivation method to cultivate, and the effect was also incomparably shocking. He only used 15 minutes to completely refine a top-grade pill. It would only take him half a day at most to completely refine an entire bottle of supreme grade pills. In fact, Yi Fei had underestimated the power of the Devil Emperor's Sutra. In the evening, Yi Fei felt that the medicinal power in his body had been completely transformed into his own true essence. Boom! The barrier in his body was broken once more. Very smoothly, Yi Fei rose from the peak of the 8th grade martial master to the 9th grade martial master. As long as he took another step forward and reached the 10th grade martial master, he would be able to attempt to break through to the martial ancestor realm. Hopefully that day will come soon. Once I reach the martial ancestor realm, I can figure out a way to improve my battle demon golden body to the 2nd layer. When that happens, my flesh will be the strongest in the martial ancestor realm. However, it was extremely difficult to reach that step. The reason Yi Fei was able to cultivate the 1st level of the combat demon golden body so quickly was not because of himself, but because of the Earth's spiritual pool in Wu province. In other words, if he wanted to quickly reach the 2nd level of the battle demon golden body, he would need to find a stronger Earth spiritual pool. The ranking battle will begin in 3 days. I can't forget about the battle demon golden body, but I can use this time to comprehend the Hellfire Sword. This sword art was given to him by Elder Sword Maniac, and it was at the Earth rank superior grade. Yi Fei also attached great importance to it. Once he completed his breakthrough, he immediately picked up the sword manual and immersed himself in deep comprehension. The sun rose and the moon set. 3 days passed very quickly. For 3 whole days, Yi Fei did not step out of his room as he immersed himself in comprehending the sword art. This time, he did not use his undying sword soul to increase his enlightenment. In fact, Yi Fei's enlightenment was not low. The improvement of the quality of his dantian would also help increase his enlightenment. It was merely an earth-tier sword technique. Yi Fei could rely on his own comprehension ability to comprehend it. It was just that he might need a bit more time. Luo, luo, luo. Luo, luo, luo. Luo, luo, luo. Luo, 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 luo. Luo, luo, luo. Only then did Luo she feel a bit more at ease. But because of this, his precious cultivation time had been delayed. When he saw Yi Fei walk out of the room, looking refreshed, Luo Shi's face was filled with resentment and dissatisfaction. "Good morning, Brother Jean." Yi Fei greeted Luo with a smile. After all, they were neighbors. Luo Shi's expression was very cold. He snorted coldly and did not answer. In his eyes, Yi Fei dared to come out and participate in the ranking battle. He was already 80% dead. Why should he talk to a dead man? Luo hurried out without saying anything. Yi Fei did not mind. Luo was obviously ignoring him. How could he stick close to him? That would be too boring. Looking at the time, today should be the day of the ranking battle. I wonder how Wang Bai's strength has improved. After breakfast, Yi Fei changed into his new disciple robes and followed the crowd to a huge square in the sacred land. It was simply a sea of people. Yi Fei had originally thought that there would only be a few hundred disciples who had passed the assessment this time. When he went over to take a look, he realized that the number of new disciples present had exceeded the 1,000 mark. There were also many powerful disciples who were worthy of his attention. The average disciple's strength was around the 10th level of the martial master realm. The powerful ones were all martial ancestor realm experts. Yi Fei was a 9th level martial master. In Tianyan Wufu, he could do whatever he wanted. However, in the sacred land, he was at the bottom. Yi Fei searched for a long time in the crowd before he finally found Wang Bai. Just like Yi Fei, who had relied on cheating to pass the assessment, Wang Bai's 4 eyebrows were also very famous among the new disciples. Wang Bai's narcissism was enough to make any disciple raise their eyebrows. Many new disciples had gathered in the square and were chatting animatedly. However, no one was willing to talk to Wang Bai. However, it did not matter if no one spoke. Wang Bai casually grabbed a servant who was sweeping the floor and chatted with him. He even said in a narcissistic tone, "Don't envy me. I'm just a legend." That servant disciple was about to vomit blood when he heard this. In any case, he was an expert in the 10th level of the martial master realm. However, Wang Bai's words made him roll his eyes. Then, Yifei noticed that Wang Bai's strength was still in the 6th level of the martial master realm. There was no improvement at all. Yifei was speechless. Brother Wang, didn't you go into seclusion these past few days? Why is your realm still like this? Yifei was a little worried. The ranking battle of the new disciples would definitely be a fierce battle. With Wang Bai's strength, others would not even need to make a move. Wang Bai would probably fall with a single breath. Wang Bai was also very happy to see Yifei. He finally let go of the servant who was about to foam at the mouth. He walked over and said unhappily, "Brother, your eyesight is still not improving fast enough. Who said that I went into seclusion to improve my strength? Don't you think that I've become more handsome after going into seclusion?" Yifei turned around and left. He was afraid that if he stayed any longer, he would not be able to resist beating Wang Bai up. Suddenly, Wang Bai smiled and hugged Yifei's shoulder. "Brother, don't go. I'm just joking. I know that being too handsome will make ordinary people like you feel especially pressured. I'm actually very low-key, but there's really nothing I can do about being handsome. Wang Bai, if you dare say that you're handsome again, we'll break off our friendship." Yifei finally understood how that servant disciple felt when he heard Wang Bai's words. "Brother, don't. It's all because I'm too handsome. I'll admit my mistake, okay? That's right. I didn't lie to you about the sword steal last time, right? Did you comprehend anything?" Wang Bai still had an aggrieved expression on his face. Yifei wanted to kick Wang Bai. However, the sword steal matter was indeed thanks to Wang Bai. Yifei had come over to express his thanks. "Brother Wang, thank you very much. That sword steal was indeed a treasure. Thanks to the sword maniac elder, not only did I obtain an earth tier sword technique, but my own sword intent also increased by quite a bit." Yifei did not hide anything from Wang Bai. He felt that Wang Bai had a special trait that made it easy for him to gain his trust. When Wang Bai heard this, he curled his lips and felt indignant on behalf of Yifei. That can't be. It said that the sword steal contains the shocking sword technique of the Sacred Ground's first Sacred Master. Isn't that elder too stingy? You helped him so much, yet he only gave you a book from a street stall? A 6th grade martial master actually dared to say that an earth-tier martial technique was a street stall item. Yifei did not know what to say. I'm already very satisfied with an earth-tier martial technique. Furthermore, the sword maniac elder even gave me the remnant spiritual intent of the Sacred Master. Yifei did not blame the sword maniac elder. After all, the sword technique left behind by the first Sacred Master was definitely the strongest martial technique in the Sacred Ground. No matter how much the sword maniac elder thought highly of him, he would not casually pass down such a martial technique to a new disciple. At this moment, Yifei suddenly understood why the sword maniac elder had taken him in as a disciple. Perhaps the sword maniac elder would only feel at ease passing down the sword technique to him after they became master and disciple. Unfortunately, he had rejected the offer. When Wang Bai heard this, he suddenly laughed vulgarly. "What? That old man gave that spiritual intent to you for free? Haha, I'm dying of laughter. He is not pretending to be an idiot. He is truly an idiot. He actually gave away such a thing for free." Yifei suddenly looked deeply at Wang Bai and asked, "Brother Wang, is that spiritual intent very precious? Why do I feel that you understand the sword steal better than the sword maniac elder?" Chapter 128. One more bet. Yifei looked at Wang Bai very seriously. Wang Bai's reaction was quite calm. He still laughed and said, "Brother, I've already told you. I know the past 500 years and the future 500 years. It's just that you didn't believe me." Since Wang Bai is so amazing, how come you don't know that I am Yifei? Yifei carefully observed Wang Bai's every expression. "What? You're Yifei? Bro, you must be joking, right?" Wang Bai's shock was definitely not fake. In any case, Yifei could not see any flaws. Then he was speechless. This Wang Bai's reaction was so slow. Almost half of the new disciples present knew his identity, but Wang Bai did not know. Yifei really did not know what to say. However, it was rare to meet a friend in the Holy Land that he could confide in. Although Yi Fei felt that Wang Bai was a little mysterious, he didn't want Wang Bai to suffer the Ouyang Jie's revenge just because he stood with him. Wang Bai, try your best to stay with me during the ranking battles, Yi Fei suggested to Wang Bai. Brother, that's impossible. The ranking battle this time is in a mystic realm specially prepared by the Holy Land. That mystic realm is a little strange. It's all teleportation. We might not have a chance to meet. Wang Bai shook his head and said. Suddenly, he pointed behind Yi Fei with a smirk and said, Besides, your confidant is right in front of you. It's not appropriate for me to walk with you. Wang Bai pointed at Zhao Yu, who was walking over from afar. He even winked at Yi Fei in a wretched manner. This time, Yi Fei really felt that Wang Bai was asking for a beating. However, before Yi Fei could make a move, Zhao Yu had already walked over and kicked Wang Bai to the ground. The next time you talk nonsense, this consort will castrate you and throw you into the palace as a eunuch. Zhao Yu retracted his foot in a domineering manner. How could Wang Bai, who is only a 6th-stage martial master, be a match for Zhao Yu? Although Zhao Yu had only been a 5th-grade martial master when she had joined the Sacred Land, after a period of cultivation, she had already reached the 10th-grade martial master. The speed at which her cultivation had increased made Yi Fei speechless. It was no wonder that even though Guman's talent was lower than Ouyang Jie's, he still dared to go against Ouyang Jie. Brother, this cousin of yours is really fierce. I'm just a little more handsome and a little more heaven-defying. She's actually jealous of me. She's really too petty. Wang Bai lay on the ground and did not forget to make fun of her. This time, not only Zhao Yu's face darkened, but the faces of everyone who heard this also darkened. Yi Fei simply ignored Wang Bai and asked Zhao Yu, Your Highness, why are you here? Yi Fei, I'm here to apologize to you. I didn't know that senior sister Lu Ting would misunderstand our relationship and say such things to you, Zhao Yu said with a face full of self-reproach. It's all right, I know. That wasn't your intention. Walk your own path and let those mad dog bark by themselves, Yi Fei said. He really wanted to slap himself. Did this count as being led astray by Wang Bai? Zhao Yu's face darkened. Suddenly, she thought of something and looked deeply at Yi Fei. Yi Fei, I heard that Ouyang Jie might take revenge on you during the ranking battle. Why don't we fight together when the battle starts? Don't, Yi Fei and Wang Bai said in unison. Wang Bai explained, Sister-in-law, scram. Wang Bai was kicked to the side. Say it. Zhao Yu's face was frosty. She was almost angered by Wang Bai's sister-in-law. Yi Fei also cursed in his heart. Serves him right. Zhao Yu looked easy to talk to on the surface, but her nature was very cruel. Yi Fei used Wang Bai's original words and shook his head. The ranking battle in the Holy Land will be held in the mystic realm. It said that the teleportation inside is random. It's very difficult for the three of us to meet. I see. Then we'll work together when we meet. Zhao Yu also vaguely heard some of the contents of the ranking battle. She could only resentfully give up. She planned to find a way to meet up with Yi Fei after entering the mystic realm. Yi Fei, on the other hand, wished that Zhao Yu would never meet up with him. Zhao Yu was really too beautiful. He only had to stand beside Zhao Yu to provoke the Ouyang Jie. If he entered the mystic realm and joined forces with Zhao Yu, he would definitely become the new disciple's public enemy. Zhao Yu also seemed to understand that talking to Yi Fei like this would bring trouble. She nodded slightly at Yi Fei and wanted to leave. At this moment, there was a commotion among the new disciples not far away. Ouyang Jie walked over with a large group of followers. His target was Yi Fei. Seeing that Zhao Yu was also here, Ouyang Jie's eyes lit up. He gracefully cupped his hands at Zhao Yu and said, So you're Zhao's princess. You're indeed as beautiful as a fairy. The only pity is that the two trash standing beside you are too much of a hindrance to your temperament. Yi Fei didn't say anything. Zhao Yu impatiently interrupted Ouyang Jie and said, Ouyang Jie, are you done? Yi Fei is my friend. If you insult him, you're insulting me. Ouyang Jie was shocked. He panicked and repeatedly apologized. Princess, don't be angry. Why would I insult you? I can't wait to carry you to bed every day and dote on you. Ha ha. The followers behind them all laughed loudly, as if they were afraid that no one could hear them. Zhao Yu was so angry that she finally went berserk. A cold light slapped the face of the person who laughed the loudest. "Ah, young Master Ouyang, this woman hit me." That person covered his face in pain. Blood seeped out between his fingers. It was obvious how hard Zhao Yu's slap was. "Ouyang Jia, others might be afraid of you, but I'm not. I also have a special constitution. If you spout nonsense to me again, I'll see if the sacred land will protect you or me." Zhao Yu angrily retracted her hand. Boom! Zhao Yu's words shocked many of the disciples present. Princess Zhao Yu actually has a special constitution. No wonder her strength increased so quickly. She was in the 5th level of the martial master realm, but she reached the 10th level in just a few days. Goddess, I've decided. From today onwards, Princess Zhao Yu is my goddess. I won't allow any evil demons to tarnish her. When many of the new disciples spoke, they glared at Yi Fei angrily. Clearly, Yi Fei was the evil demon they were talking about. "Zhao Yu, you actually have a special constitution? All right, I take back what I said just now. I will definitely not insult you. I will definitely use my sincerity to move you." When Ouyang Jie heard that Zhao Yu also had a special constitution, his arrogant attitude was restrained. The desire in his eyes became brighter and brighter. In Ouyang Jie's opinion, if Zhao Yu was only beautiful, he would at most treat her as a plaything. If Zhao Yu also had a special constitution, then it was definitely worth marrying her home. That way, their descendants would definitely all be geniuses in the future. Chapter 129. Blatant favoritism. What? Ouyang Jie still wants to bet with that demon? Isn't that even better? We'll have a good show to watch now. He's only an Earth Grade 1st stage, yet he dares to offend an Earth Grade 5th stage Ouyang Jie. Let's see how he dies this time. Yi Fei is still the newcomer king after all. Ouyang Jie is bullying him like this. Won't the elders do anything about it? Ouyang Jie was the most talented among the new disciples. Yi Fei was also the first dark horse to pass the stage in 10 years. When the two of them stood together, they instantly attracted the attention of most of the people present. "Yi Fei, if you're a man, then bet with me again." Ouyang Jie looked at the people around him very proudly. This was the effect he wanted. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, he couldn't refuse. In the world of martial artists, the strong were respected. If he showed weakness in front of everyone, then he would always be inferior to Ouyang Jie in the future. Yi Fei understood this point. Of course, he couldn't back down. He looked coldly at Ouyang Jie and said, "If you want to bet, I'll take you on any time. Tell me, what do you want to bet this time? We'll bet on the promissory note on you. If I win, you have to return the promissory note from our previous bet to me. You also have to kneel down in front of everyone and apologize to me." Ouyang Jie hadn't forgotten the humiliation of kneeling down a few days ago. He was even more pained by the loss of an entire year's worth of cultivation resources. Yi Fei had already expected that Ouyang Jie wouldn't be willing to lose an entire year's worth of cultivation resources. He didn't refuse, but instead asked, "What if I win?" "You win? Haha, with your trash strength. How could you get first place in the ranking tournament? My name, Ouyang Jie, will be written in reverse from now on." Ouyang Jie's face was full of sarcasm and disdain. He was full of confidence in his own strength. Last time, he had lost completely because he had been too careless. He had not expected Yi Fei to use the extraterrestrial divine flame to cheat through the game. Today, he was going to return the defeat and submission to Yi Fei 10 times, 100 times over. When Yi Fei heard this, he suddenly pointed at Ouyang Jie and scolded, "Ouyang Jie, I think you've lost your mind from kneeling. If I lose, I have to return you a year's worth of cultivation resources. If you lose, I get nothing. It's none of my business whether you write your name backwards or not." "It can't be. Ouyang Jie once knelt down? When did this happen? I didn't hear anything about it. But this is what Yi Fei said. It can't be fake, right? Look, Ouyang Jie's face is turning purple." Ouyang Jie's face was not just purple. It was so purple that it was turning black. He had not expected Yi Fei to dare to reveal the incident at the skills library in front of everyone and embarrass him in front of everyone. He could not forgive him. Roar, Yi Fei, you've completely angered me. Even if you kneel down and beg me now, I will not let you off. I'll ask you one last time. Do you accept this bet? Ouyang Jia was so angry that his eyes were about to spit fire. Many disciples were so frightened that their faces turned pale. Yi Fei was not afraid. He turned around and walked away. He could not be bothered to talk nonsense with Ouyang Jia. Wang Bai looked at Ouyang Jia with disdain and said, "If you can't afford to lose, don't bet with my brother. Who would be stupid to accept such an unfair bet?" The surrounding disciples nodded. How was Ouyang Jia bet? This was clearly bullying. Although they did not agree with Ouyang Jia in their hearts, no one was stupid enough to stand out and oppose Ouyang Jia. This was especially so when Elder Heavenly Flame saw that Yi Fei did not agree. He even openly went to Ouyang Jia's side and blocked Yi Fei's path. He shouted, "Disciple Yi Fei, why are you still not standing there for this old man? You must accept it today. This is your punishment for cheating last time." Cheating? Yi Fei stopped, as if he had heard a funny joke. He turned around and sneered at Elder Heavenflame. Which chapter of the Holy Land states that when passing a trial, you're not allowed to use a divine flame from beyond the heavens? Since there is no such thing, what right do you have to say that I cheated? Impudent! This disciple of yours is out of control. I am an elder. If I say you cheated, then you cheated. Not only did you cheat when you passed, but you also cheated when you made a bet with Ouyang Jia. Elder Heavenly Flame said righteously. Yi Fei was disgusted. He made a vomiting gesture and said, "I didn't cheat. It's just that you're too biased." Nonsense. Elder Heavenly Flame obviously would not admit it. But in fact, even a fool could see that he was completely biased towards Ouyang Jia. Stop fooling around. Your name is Yi Fei, right? We don't care how you passed, but the bet you made with Ouyang Jia last time was clearly unfair. How about this? This old man will make the decision and let you make a bet again. If you lose, you will return the resources you took to Ouyang Jia. If Ouyang Jia loses, we will also make him apologize to you. Let's do it this way. There were a total of 5 elders presiding over the ranking battle. Other than Elder Heavenly Flame, who was a little hesitant, the other elders all stepped forward to act as mediators. Yi Fei was furious. How were they trying to mediate? They were clearly biased towards Ouyang Jia. So this is the so-called Holy Land Elders? This is really an eye-opener for me. You want to make decisions for me? The few of you are not worthy. Yi Fei angrily pointed at the few outer sect elders and scolded them. The scolding made the few elders' faces darken and their beards tremble in anger. Arrogant, reckless, arrogant, disrespectful bastard. You actually dare to scold us elders. The elders were so angry that their bodies were trembling. If they didn't know that Yi Fei had the sword token from Eldersword Maniac, they would have slapped Yi Fei to death. Ouyang Jia was also furious when he saw that so many outer sect elders couldn't force Yi Fei to submit. The surrounding disciples were watching. If he couldn't force Yi Fei to make a bet again, how would he be able to raise his head in the outer sect in the future? Yi Fei, stop right there. You want fairness, right? Fine, I'll give you fairness. As long as you can get first place in this bet, I'll give you this earth-level flying martial art. Ouyang Jia gritted his teeth and reluctantly took out a secret martial art book. With this book, you'll be able to fly when you're in the martial ancestor realm. My Ouyang family spent a lot of money to buy this book from the auction. I haven't even seen it yet. Are you satisfied with this bet? Flying martial art? Ouyang Jia, don't lie to me. Is this really an earth-level flying martial art? Yi Fei's eyes lit up. He knew that even if he didn't make a bet with Ouyang Jia wouldn't let him off. So he might as well make a bet with Ouyang Jia and get a special earth-level martial art at the same time. After receiving Ouyang Jia's affirmation, Yi Fei smiled and nodded without hesitation. Okay, I accept this bet. Don't regret it when you lose. Haha, my Ouyang family's wealth can rival a country. What can I not get? Do you think I'm the same as you? So poor that I can't even afford an earth-level martial art? Ouyang Jia had a proud expression. Chapter 130. Token scramble at this time. Only Wang Bai, who was super slow, dared to joke with Ouyang Jie, especially when he called her little Ouyang Jie. It was so ecstatic that Ouyang Jie's face turned livid. The surrounding disciples and elders wanted to laugh, but they didn't find it funny. Only Guman laughed out loud without any scruples. Ha ha, little Ouyang. This name is quite pleasing to the ear. For eyebrow scram, Ouyang Jie was so angry that he wanted to beat Wang Bai. However, Wang Bai's strength was too pitiful. Ouyang Jie wanted to beat Wang Bai, but seeing Wang Bai's strength, he couldn't do it. This was really bullying the weak. In front of everyone, Ouyang Jie still cared about his face. He quickly signed and asked Wang Bai to get away from him. At this Wang Bai, Yifei was speechless as he looked at Wang Bai. He was slightly touched. He knew that Wang Bai was actually helping him by doing this. With this written agreement, Ouyang Jie definitely wouldn't dare to go back on his word. As long as he could win this ranking battle, that flying martial art would definitely belong to him. However, Brother Wang, this is too risky. When we go in later, you'd better meet up with me as soon as possible, Yifei said to Wang Bai worriedly. He had also signed the agreement. Wang Bai glanced at Yifei with an expression that said he had seen through everything. He patted Yifei on the shoulder and said earnestly, "Brother, are you afraid that I will steal your limelight because I am too powerful? Don't worry, other than my handsomeness, which will always be number one, the other first places are just fleeting clouds in my eyes." Yifei's face darkened. He started to worry in his heart. Wang Bai was so annoying that he couldn't help but want to kick him. If the ranking battle started, there would definitely be a lot of people who would want to teach Wang Bai a lesson. Yifei had a good relationship with Wang Bai, so he didn't want to say too much to the slow-witted Wang Bai. He looked at Zhao Yu, who was beside him, and nodded at her before secretly pointing at Wang Bai. Zhao Yu blinked her eyes and returned Yifei's gaze. Yifei was relieved. It was easy to talk to a smart woman. Of course, it would be even better if this woman wasn't so cruel. When the elders who were in charge of the ranking battle saw that the battle between the two sides had ended, they all Yifei's world sex, cloud, dragon sex, sect hall, Yi and Yi. Elder Heaven Flame said in a solemn voice, "The auspicious time has arrived. The ranking battle begins now." The rules of this ranking battle are very simple. There are no rules. Once you enter the pocket world, you can fight freely and fight for the tokens inside. There will be a treasure map on each token. Whoever can find it the fastest will be able to find the treasure inside. All right, we won't say anything unnecessary. Remember, once you enter the ranking battle, there will be no regard for life or death. You must act according to your abilities. Otherwise, if you lose your life, our holy land will not be responsible. Do you understand? Skyheart said to the disciples with a solemn expression. Yifei nodded silently. Although the outer sect elders were snobbish, there were still a few who were more sincere. Yifei, you must be careful when you enter. Since Ouyang Jie can pull so many elders to support him, he will definitely think of ways to deal with you during this ranking battle. Zhao Yu walked to Yifei's side with a serious expression. Brother, don't worry. If you're scared, remember to call me by my name 3 times. I guarantee that you will be invincible. Everyone will be afraid of you. Wang Bai, are you comforting me or cursing me? Yifei was depressed. This fellow was really asking for a beating. His hands were starting to itch. He really didn't know if Wang Bai would be able to survive the ranking battle. Yifei wanted to help, but he was helpless. The small world where the ranking battle took place was random. Yifei, Wang Bai, and Zhao Yu walked in hand. After entering the small world's door of light, Yifei discovered that he had been transported to an unfamiliar forest alone. He wasn't the only one who had experienced this. Almost everyone was randomly teleported to various places when they entered the small world. When Ouyang Jie saw Yifei enter the small world, a sinister smile immediately appeared on his face. Among the disciples present, only the majority of the ordinary disciples and a small number of elite disciples had entered the small world. Most of the genius disciples ranked in the top 200 had gathered around Ouyang Jie. When they saw Yifei enter the small world so quickly, Many of them had pity in their eyes. Ouyang Jie's face was ferocious. He suddenly turned around to look at the geniuses and said coldly, "Everyone, do you have any objections to my request?" "No, it's our honor to be able to help senior brother Ouyang." "Yeah, a small fry from Wu province dares to oppose a genius like you, senior brother Ouyang. I think he's tired of living." "Don't worry, senior brother Ouyang. When we enter the small world, no matter who meets him, we'll do our best to cripple him and let you deal with him personally." These geniuses looked at Ouyang Jie fawningly. Among them, there were a few Earth grade rank, 1 in rank, 2 geniuses. Ouyang Jie was also very satisfied with their attitude. He laughed and said, "Very good. As long as any of you can bring that trash to me, that person has the qualifications to be my friend. This flying martial art, we can also comprehend it together." Ouyang Jie didn't forget to tempt them with benefits. His words made these people excited. They all rushed into the small world eagerly. They couldn't wait to rush in and capture Yi Fei so that they could claim credit from Ouyang Jie. The 5 elders presiding over the ranking battle naturally also heard Ouyang Jie's words, but they all pretended to be deaf and mute, as if they didn't hear anything. In the holy grounds, Earth rank talents were also divided into different grades. Earth rank talents of the 1st and 2nd grade would only be valued in the holy grounds. Only those with Earth rank talents of the 3rd grade and above would be valued by the holy grounds. As for Ouyang Jie's rank 5D rank, he would definitely be heavily nurtured by the sacred land. After all, with a rank 5 Dantian, there was a 50% chance that his Ouyang Jie would become a martial king in the future. In any sacred ground, a martial king realm cultivator was the absolute backbone of the sacred ground. Of course, the elders knew what to choose. Only Elder Tianxin was still a little worried. When he saw that Ouyang Jie had already gone in, he couldn't help but say to Elder Tianxin, "Senior brother Tianxin, are we really going to let Ouyang Jie do as he pleases by allying 200 geniuses just to deal with Yi Fei? This is making a mountain out of a molehill. Furthermore, Yi Fei has Uncle Master Sword Maniac's sword token. If Uncle Master Sword Maniac were to find out about this, Tianxin, you don't have to say anymore. I have already made up my mind. In the martial world, the strong are respected. That Yi Fei clearly knows that Ouyang Jie is a super genius nurtured by our holy grounds. Yet he still dares to offend Ouyang Jie time and time again, affecting the progress of such a super genius. This kid deserves to be punished." Elder Tianxin snorted coldly. "Isn't that so? That arrogant guy thinks that he's amazing just because he has a rank 1D rank talent. This kind of talent is only slightly better than trash in our holy grounds. How dare he offend a super genius like Ouyang Jie? He has no respect for his elders and is arrogant and ignorant. This kind of trash should die early so that we won't have to worry about him. I'm just afraid that we won't be able to explain this to Uncle Master Sword Maniac." There were still some elders who were more worried. Elder Tianxin comforted his companions confidently. "There's no need to worry. It's not like you don't know Martial Uncle Sword Maniac. He loves the sword to the point that he's crazy about it. Other than the sword, he doesn't care about anything else. Back then, he was able to comprehend the sword steel for 70 years. Now he has already comprehended the sword steel and is about to start cultivating. Who knows how long he will cultivate for? 50 years? 100 years? By the time he comes out of seclusion, he probably won't even remember who Yi Fei is. Yes, that's the logic. As long as we can win over a super genius like Ouyang Jie, it's not a big deal to lose a few trash." The other 3 elders nodded in agreement. They also knew Elder Tianxin's characteristics, which was why they dared to let Ouyang Jie harm Yi Fei. Otherwise, if it were another powerful elder who liked Yi Fei and often traveled outside, they wouldn't have the guts to do so. They would bully Yi Fei like this. Chapter 131. Hellfire. The small world where the ranking battle was held in the Holy Land was exactly the same as the outside world. There was a sky, a land, and a forest. Of course, there was no lack of vicious beasts and demonic beasts that the Holy Land had trapped here. These demonic beasts were the bloodthirsty, vicious demonic beasts that the Sacred Land had captured from various places. Every time a disciple entered the small world, they would immediately be attacked by a large number of demonic beasts. After Yi Fei entered the small world, he immediately found a very large ancient tree. He quickly climbed to the top of the tree and looked around. He didn't rashly attack the demonic beasts passing by below. Instead, he quietly pacified the dense canopy, as if he was waiting for something. Many of the experts who had entered the pocket world were basically like Yi Fei. They did not make the first move. True elites would choose the right time to strike. Although there were many disciples and demonic beasts everywhere in the small world, they were at best cannon fodder. The real benefits would always be left to those who were prepared. Woo woo woo. Suddenly, a tremor came from the sky. Then, a dense cluster of light spots fell to the ground like meteors, flying to different parts of the small world. He's here! The elders are starting to release the tokens. Whoever obtains the most number of tokens, the more precious they are, will be able to obtain the best result in a ranking battle. Shwa! 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 When they saw the tokens flying across the sky, the elite disciples who were hiding in various places finally revealed themselves. Unless they met with a demonic beast that blocked their path, they would have to fight. Right now, everyone's greatest hope was to do their best to obtain these scattered tokens. Every single token represents a fortuitous encounter. As expected of sacred ground, every single one of their actions is a huge investment. I wonder how Wang Bai is doing. Yi Fei wasn't too worried about Zhao Yu. That woman was very cruel, and she was born with a special constitution. Even if Zhao Yu didn't do anything, many disciples would try to curry favor with her and take the initiative to give her precious tokens. The only exception was Wang Bai. That fellow deserved a beating. In this ranking battle, not only did he fail to obtain the token, but he also lost his life. After all, the ranking battle did not forbid killing. Whoosh! Just as Yi Fei was thinking, a green stream of light suddenly streaked across the top of his head. It's a bronze token. He was pleasantly surprised. The tokens that were released in the ranking battle were also divided into iron, bronze, silver, and gold. The higher the level of the token, the more precious the silver token battle. It was rare to see a bronze token appear before his eyes. Yi Fei would not let go of such a good opportunity. Yi Fei nimbly jumped down from the tree and chased after the medallion. At the same time, on a hill not far from the tree, a black-clothed disciple with a saber in his hand was chasing after the stream of bronze light. That disciple... isn't that the evil demon Yi Fei? To think that I would meet this trash here. With my strength of the martial ancestor realm, killing a trash like him is an easy task. The disciple's eyes flashed fiercely. He did not accept the Ouyang Jie's invitation to kill Yi Fei. Instead, he thought of the Zhao clan's killing token. It said that whoever killed Yi Fei, the Zhao clan would betroth Zhao Yu to that person. It seems that today is my lucky day. I actually met this demon first. Princess Zhao Yu, beauty, wait for me. Big brother will soon marry you. Wang Tai let out a gloomy and proud laugh, and quietly followed behind Yi Fei. Someone is following us. He seems to be here for the bronze token. Yi Fei was still searching for the bronze token. He did not give up on his vigilance. After absorbing the first divine master's spiritual consciousness, not only did his spiritual power increase several times, but his eyesight had also sharpened. He could hear the sounds of ants fighting. Therefore, he could hear the sound of something breaking through the air from far away. Yi Fei frowned slightly. He did not choose to turn back. After all, it was more important to get the bronze token. Bang! In the end, the medallion fell to the ground 1,000 meters away from Yi Fei. It actually smashed a demonic beast that was lying in ambush into pieces. The misty blue light and the bloody smell of the ground added a cruel coldness to the medallion. Yi Fei picked up the token and was about to put it into his pocket as fast as he could. Wang Tai, who was hiding in the dark, became anxious when he saw this. He rushed out angrily and shouted, "Trash, stop it! I found this bronze token first. How dare you touch it? You were the one who found it first, but I was the one who picked it up first. It belongs to me." Yi Fei turned around and put the token into his pocket in front of Wang Tai. It was a slap in the face. After seeing this, not only was Wang Tai not enraged, his eyes were filled with joy. "Haha, I was just worried that I wouldn't have a reasonable excuse to kill you. Who would have thought that a piece of trash like you would dare to offend me, a second-layer martial ancestor realm cultivator?" Boom! Wang Tai had already raised his vital essence to the limit. The saber in his hand was glowing with a bloody light. He aimed it at Yi Fei. Yi Fei was very surprised. What kind of hatred and resentment is this? We are fellow disciples. You want to kill me just because of token? Shut up. Yi Fei, you are just a trash from Wu province. Why do you have to call me fellow disciple? You offended the Ouyang Jie and you are half dead. You offended me, and I will turn you into a dead man right now. Wang Tai's face was full of disdain. He seemed to be high and mighty. So that's how it is. You didn't come here to steal the badge. Your real intention was to kill me. Who sent you here? Ouyang Jie or Gu Man? Yi Fei's face sank. Bullsh asterisk T. What right do the two of them have to order me around? I just don't like trash like you and want to kill you for fun. Can I do that? Wang Tai was not in a hurry to make a move. After all, Yi Fei was this year's newcomer king. Before he died, he still wanted to torture Yi Fei. Therefore, Wang Tai said proudly, "What I like the most is to torture trash like you. Aren't you the newcomer king this time? If you don't want to die too painfully, then lie on the ground and bark like a dog for me." Bark like a dog? I don't know how to bark. Why don't you bark and I will imitate it? Yi Fei retorted. This immediately infuriated Wang Tai. You are about to die, and you still dare to talk big. Yi Fei, I think you are courting death. Wang Tai attacked angrily. His saber gleamed like a blood-red waterfall. When the saber gleam appeared, the surroundings were filled with the aura of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Saber of slaughter. Boom! The saber gleam tore through the air and slashed at Yi Fei's body. Yi Fei shook his head coldly and suddenly shouted, "A speck of light dares to compete with the bright moon? Kill! Hellfire sword!" Chapter 132. Ghosts and Gods Trash. You actually dare to resist? Die! Wang Tai was truly furious. He had not expected that Yi Fei, a mere 9th-stage martial master, would actually dare to clash head-on with him, a 2nd-stage martial ancestor. With a ferocious expression, Wang Tai pushed the quintessence in his body to the limit. The horrifying saber light turned into a crescent-shaped blood moon, covering the space around Yi Fei. All the rocks, plants, and trees that came into contact with the saber light were crushed into powder. From this, one could see the power of Wang Tai's saber. As for Yi Fei, he was not in a hurry. He pulled out the soul-devouring sword and activated the Hellfire sword. The black soul-devouring sword suddenly turned into a flaming sword that burned with purple flames. Other than its unique color, it did not seem to have any offensive capabilities. But it was this sword that easily pierced through the huge blade aura in front of him. Then, Yi Fei passed through the blade aura with his sword and appeared beside Wang Tai. "Your saber is only SOSO. How is this possible?" Wang Tai was stunned. 2nd martial ancestor realm. That was an entire realm above Yi Fei. However, the result of the battle was so shocking. In front of Yi Fei, his full-powered strike could not even last for a breath. What a terrifying sword strike. You actually have an Earth greatsword art. Wang Tai's face was full of bitterness, followed by a strong sense of dissatisfaction. Why? You, a small fry, have such strong sword skills, but I don't. Go to hell. Blood waves roaring to the heavens. After all, Wang Tai was a martial ancestor realm expert. He would not be defeated so easily. Just as Yi Fei appeared, layers of blood waves had already wrapped around Yi Fei. Using the blood waves as a cover, a bright saber light suddenly appeared at Yi Fei's throat, attempting to deal a fatal blow to Yi Fei. Clang! At the critical moment, a strong sword will suddenly erupted from Yi Fei's body. Unless Wang Tai could comprehend saber intent, there was no way he could block such an attack. In fact, although Wang Tai was also a very powerful genius, he had only touched the seed of saber intent, let alone the complete saber intent. Sword intent? How is that possible? Wow! Wang Tai screamed as Yi Fei's 20% sword intent shattered the saber in his hand. Then, even the arm holding the saber couldn't withstand this terrifying sword intent. In a breath's time, that arm had already been shattered by the sword intent. The shock on Wang Tai's face turned into complete terror. He had already begun to regret provoking Yi Fei. Yi Fei was definitely a monster to be able to comprehend the complete sword essence in the martial mentor realm. He was not someone an ordinary genius like him could provoke. Yi Fei, let me go. Wang Tai ignored the intense pain from his broken arm and turned to flee in fright. A second-stage martial ancestor realm cultivator had actually been frightened by a ninth-stage martial master realm cultivator. However, this was also proof of Yi Fei's strength. Let you go? Why didn't you let me go when you were about to kill me? Yi Fei's eyes flashed with a murderous intent. If he hadn't raised his devouring sword intent to 20%, any other ninth-stage martial master realm disciple would have been killed by Wang Tai. Now that Wang Tai saw that he couldn't kill him, he actually had the cheek to beg for mercy. How could there be such a good thing in the world? Yi Fei had already given him a chance. It was just that he didn't know how to cherish it. Leave your life. Hellfire, Ghost God's cry. Yi Fei's eyes were cold as he raised the devouring soul sword and activated the strongest move of the Hellfire sword, Ghost God's cry. Boom! A black sword light, invisible and formless, instantly caught up with Wang Tai's fleeing figure. Wang Tai, who was seriously injured, could only faintly hear the cries of ghosts and deities in the void. His body was already in excruciating pain, and his eyes revealed a tinge of regret and deep fear. As Wang Tai said this word, his entire body was already burning with raging black flames. In the blink of an eye, he was burned into a pile of charcoal. Until his death, Wang Tai dared not believe that he, who was in the second stage of the martial ancestor realm, would be killed by Yi Fei, who was in the ninth stage of the martial master realm. This was also the terrifying part of the Hellfire sword. Yi Fei didn't know where the sword maniac elder had found this sword technique. After mastering it, it could actually make the sword chi invisible, making it impossible to guard against. Especially the Hellfire that had been transformed from the extraterrestrial divine flame in his body. Its power was even more terrifying. Ding! Ding! After Wang Tai died, several black tokens rolled out from the place where he was burned to ashes. Yi Fei could tell at a glance that these were all black iron tokens that had never been used before. Yi Fei even found many bloodstains on some of the tokens. This Wang Tai really deserved to be killed. In order to obtain these tokens, he must have killed many people. Yi Fei picked up all the black iron tokens and put them into his pocket. Then, he quickly left the place. Wang Tai was definitely not the only one who had discovered the bronze stream of light. There might even be other disciples who had followed the trail and followed it here. In order to not cause any trouble, Yi Fei quickly left the place. In the end, he found a hidden cave and hid inside. Then, he took out all the tokens that he had obtained. This time, after killing Wang Tai, Yi Fei had gained a lot. There was a total of 1 bronze token and 5 black iron tokens. First, he opened the black iron token from the middle. There was no map inside, only 3 to 5 peak grade spirit gathering pills. When Yi Fei saw this, his eyes lit up. Just the black iron token alone has peak grade spirit gathering pills. Then, wouldn't the bronze token have earth grade spirit gathering pills? Yi Fei hurriedly pulled open that bronze token again. Sure enough, he saw that there were 3 black earth level medicinal pills lying inside. The heavens are really helping me. Could it be that everyone attaches so much importance to the new disciple ranking battle? Yi Fei revealed a smile on his face. At this moment, he somewhat understood why Wang Tai was in such a hurry to kill him. 3 earth grade spirit gathering pills were enough for any disciple to take the risk. Right now, my strength is still too low. I'm only in the 9th layer of the martial master realm. Using sword intent consumes too much energy. These pills are just enough for me to increase my strength a little. Although he wanted to immediately go out and snatch more tokens, Yifei gave up in the end after careful consideration. He had the immortal sword spirit, so he didn't have to worry about his talent not being able to keep up in the future. What Yifei needed the most now was cultivation resources and enough high-grade pills. Whether it was increasing the quality of his Dantian or cultivating the Battle Demon Golden Body, they both required a huge amount of resources. No matter how strong the sword intent is, it still requires sufficient strength to be able to unleash it. After this battle, Yifei gained some more insights. He immediately swallowed all the top-grade spirit gathering pills and the earth-grade spirit gathering pills into his stomach and immediately began to break through to the 10th layer of the martial master realm. After refining so much medicinal energy at once, no matter how strong Yifei's body was, he felt like it was going to explode. The intense pain caused Yifei to feel dizzy. He hurriedly bit his lips so hard that it bled, but he did his best to endure it. In his heart, Yifei kept telling himself, "Don't be so stupid. Endure it. I must endure it. As long as I increase my strength as soon as possible, I will be able to enter the Star Moon Holy Land and take my sister back." Who said that ordinary people can't enter the Holy Land? Not only did I enter, I also want to become stronger. Only by becoming stronger can I have a foothold in the Holy Land. Only by becoming stronger can I protect my family, Yi who cares about me and loves me. For my sister, for Uncle Jian, I must become the strongest. Break through to the 10th layer of the martial master realm for me. Yifei desperately shouted in his heart. Chapter 133. Martial Master 10th Layer Yifei was really shocked when he heard footsteps coming in. The cave he found was very secluded. He thought he could cultivate in peace, but someone actually found this place. Now, Yifei only had 2 choices. One was to give up on the breakthrough and waste more than 10 Supreme Grade pills and 3 Earth Grade pills. The second option was to continue breaking through. However, it was very likely that the people who entered would launch a sneak attack on him. After weighing the 2 options, Yifei ultimately chose to continue his breakthrough. The reason was simple. He urgently needed to increase his strength and deal with the Ouyang Jie's revenge. If he didn't improve his strength now, Yifei couldn't guarantee that his 20% sword essence would be able to defeat Ouyang Jie when he encountered Ouyang Jie. Continue breaking through. It's fine if those who come in don't make a move, but if they dare to disturb me, don't blame me for being ruthless. While he was cultivating, Yifei did not forget to secretly place the soul-devouring sword behind him. This way, it would be more convenient for him to attack at any time. He had just finished all of this. The sound of footsteps was very clear, and a figure stumbled in. The person who entered was none other than Luo Shi. When he saw that Yifei was also here and seemed to be cultivating, Luo Shi was shocked. "Yifei, it's actually you? You've already occupied this place?" Yifei didn't say anything. Right now, he was fully focused on breaking through the bottleneck of the Martial Master 10th stage, so he didn't have time to talk to Luo Shi. However, the vigilance in Yifei's heart had lowered slightly. Although Yifei didn't get along well with his neighbor, Luo Shi, he could tell that Luo Shi wasn't an evil person. Reality proved Yifei's judgment. Seeing Yifei remain silent, Luo Shi quickly understood that Yifei might be breaking through. He was speechless. There were so many disciples outside desperately searching for Yifei, hoping to capture Yifei and bring him to the Ouyang Jie for a reward. In the end, Yifei actually had the leisure to break through here. Luo Shi should have left immediately to avoid arousing hostility when someone occupied the cave. However, he looked at his injuries and then at Yifei, who was in the midst of breaking through. He hesitated for a moment before gritting his teeth and cupping his fists at Yifei, I'm sorry. Yifei Luo Shi. Sorry. I'm sorry. Yifei. Yifei. Yi Fei. I'm sorry, Yi Fei. Yi Fei. Only then did Yi Fei realize that Luo she had come here because he was injured and wanted to find a secluded place to recuperate. In the end, the two of them happened to find the same cave. Yi Fei was also speechless. However, when it came to breaking through, he couldn't be careless. He saw Luo, she sitting cross-legged far away and beginning to heal himself. Nodding slightly, Xiao Chun unleashed all the quintessence that he had accumulated in his body, charging at the invisible barrier. Pa! 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 Yi Fei's body emitted the sound of bones rubbing against each other. Then he felt in intense pain. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He had failed on his first breakthrough. Breaking through to the 10th layer of the Martial Master realm is actually more difficult than the previous 9 layers combined. Furthermore, my Dantian quality has increased to the 1st grade of the Earth grade. You can imagine how difficult it is for disciples below the Earth grade to break through. Through this matter, Yi Fei finally understood how important the quality of one's Dantian was to a person's breakthrough. It looks like I have to pay more attention to increasing my talent. I have to find more powerful pills to increase the quality of my Dantian. Yi Fei quickly wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. He was not discouraged. After all, he had refined 3 Earth-grade pills. A failed breakthrough would not exhaust all the medicinal energy in his body. Thus, Yi Fei decided to continue breaking through. If the first time is not enough, I'll try twice. If the second time is not enough, I'll try thrice. If I can't even break through the bottleneck of the 10th layer of the Martial Master realm, how can I become stronger? How can I reach the peak of the Martial Tao? 10th layer of the Martial Master realm. Continue breaking through. Boom! Yi Fei circulated the Devil Emperor Sutra to its limits with a hint of madness. He tried to break through to the 10th layer of the Martial Master realm again. However, the bottleneck was too strong. He failed again on the 2nd attempt. Again, Yi Fei was not discouraged. If there was a will, there would be a way. Even if he was badly battered, as long as he had a breath left, he would never turn back. 10th layer of the Martial Master realm. Break through. On the 3rd attempt, Yi Fei roared. Circulating all the quintessential energy in his body to the limit was not enough. Yi Fei continued circulating the quintessential energy at this limit. Ka. Circulating the quintessential energy over the limit placed a huge burden on the body. Just one cycle of circulating the Devil Emperor Sutra had caused countless cracks to appear on Yi Fei's bones. Ignoring everything, Yi Fei continued to increase his quintessential energy. If he wanted to break through this limit and win, he had to win against himself. This lunatic, he's crazy. Is it so easy to break through to the 10th layer of the Martial Master realm? We're both 1st grade Earth grade, but I went into seclusion for an entire month before successfully breaking through. Does this lunatic want to break through in a day? Luo Shi, who was cultivating, woke up with a start. When he saw Yi Fei's mouth full of blood and his crazy desire to break through to the 10th layer of the Martial Master realm, Luo, she was truly frightened. Then, Luo, she was dumbfounded. He didn't even have the time to despise Yi Fei for overestimating his own capabilities when the heaven and earth yuan qi in the cave suddenly began to flow crazily towards Yi Fei's direction. Finally, it evolved into a terrifying spiritual energy vortex, all of it pouring into Yi Fei's body. Spiritual energy empowerment. This is the sign of breaking through to the 10th layer of the Martial Master realm. This lunatic actually succeeded. Luo, she felt sullen. In order to break through to the 10th layer of the Martial Master realm, he had gone into seclusion for an entire month. However, look at Yi Fei. He had just sat in a cave for a day and went crazy for a while before breaking through. It was really infuriating to compare oneself to others. Then, Luo Shi's expression became incomparably nervous. He looked at Yi Fei with a strong sense of vigilance. As for Yi Fei, of course, he felt refreshed. His entire body felt as comfortable as if he was soaking in a hot spring. The spiritual energy empowerment had not only helped him break through to the 10th layer of the martial master realm, but had also healed all of Yi Fei's injuries. In short, breaking through to the next realm was awesome. Yi Fei wanted to stand up and roar a few times. However, considering that Luo, she was still recuperating, he did not disturb him when he came in. Putting himself in Luo Shi's shoes, Yi Fei did not want to disturb Luo Shi. He stood up from the ground and glanced at Luo Shi. Just as he was about to speak, a loud shout came from outside the cave. "Quick, the bloodstains disappeared here. That brat Luo, she must be hiding somewhere here. Everyone, search carefully. Even if you have to dig 3 feet into the ground, you have to find Luo Shi. Do you think you can just leave after stealing the silver token?" Silver token? Yi Fei's heart trembled violently. He had only obtained a bronze token, yet he had obtained 3 earth rank pills. What good things could a silver token of a higher grade contain? "Luo Shi, my good neighbor, it seems like you're quite unlucky. That silver token is still with you?" Yi Fei glanced at Luo Shi. Chapter 134. Drawing his sword to help Luo, she could not help but feel nervous. One had to know that some of the new disciples outside had even lost their lives fighting for a black iron token. Now that an even more precious silver token had appeared before him, anyone would be envious. Luo Shi's luck was indeed good. Not long after he was transported in, a silver token just happened to land not too far away from him. But before Luo Shi could celebrate his good luck, a large group of powerful disciples rushed over with bloodshot eyes. That silver token naturally became the focus of the fight. More than a dozen people had died because of it. Luo Shi had risked his life to fight his way out of the encirclement and escape all the way here. He had thought that Yi Fei would need at least 10 days to break through in seclusion, if not a month. He could definitely leave early after recovering from his injuries. Who would have thought that Yi Fei would complete the breakthrough in just a day? What was even more frightening was that his enemies had already followed the bloodstains to this place. Luo Shi's forehead was covered in cold sweat. His entire body was drenched in cold sweat as he looked at Yi Fei. "Don't worry, it's just a silver token. I'm not stupid enough to take advantage of you and steal your token." Yi Fei smiled. "I was just joking just now. Why are you so nervous?" There were pursuers outside and strong enemies inside, but Yi Fei was still joking. Luo Shi's face was gloomy, and he almost vomited blood. "What do you want?" "Of course I want a piece of the action. Even with your strength, you were injured. The disciples chasing you must be very strong. I can help you deal with them. But the condition is that we share the silver token," Yi Fei said with a smile. He felt that Luo Shi was not a bad person. Otherwise, when he was breaking through, Luo Shi would have had the chance to attack him. Since Luo Shi had no intention of harming him, Yi Fei naturally would not harm Luo Shi either. But it was rare to come across a silver token. It would be a pity to give it up. Sharing it was the best solution. Yi Fei was not afraid that Luo Shi would not agree. If Luo Shi could find this cave, the disciples chasing him outside would definitely find it quickly too. "Do you agree or not? They will soon find this place." Yi Fei reminded Luo Shi, telling him not to hesitate too much. In Luo Shi's eyes, this was simply taking advantage of the situation. However, Luo Shi was still in the finishing stage of his cultivation. If Yi Fei attacked him now, even if he couldn't kill Luo Shi, it would be enough to make Luo Shi even more injured. Therefore, no matter how sullen Luo Shi felt, he still nodded gloomily and agreed. "All right, I'll take 70% of the items in this token, and you take 30%. We'll all share." "No way. You take 30%, and I take 70%. Yi Fei rejected without hesitation. This Luo Shi was not being honest. Of course, Yi Fei completely ignored that he was taking advantage of the situation. After all, it was a silver token. Who wouldn't want it? The fact that he didn't directly harm Luo Shi was already the greatest kindness he could have shown. The world of martialists was just like that. The strong survived while the weak were eliminated. It was a very cruel world. Every step one took meant piles of bones. Yi Fei, Don't go overboard. Giving you 30% of the benefits is already the greatest concession I can make. Do you really think that I need to rely on you to get through this difficult time? Luo Shi glared at Yi Fei angrily. In Luo Shi's opinion, Yi Fei's 10th level martial master cultivation was actually very weak. However, the people chasing after him were very powerful martial grandmasters. If it weren't for the fact that he was injured and didn't have the confidence to deal with so many people at the same time, Luo Shi wouldn't have even bothered to cooperate with a martial master like Yi Fei. Luo Shi also believed that he had already made the greatest concession. How could he tolerate Yi Fei's greed? 30% at most. If it's not enough, then forget it. Luo Shi said resolutely. Forget it then. I'll go out and ask others if they're willing to give me a bit more. Yi Fei didn't argue. He just pretended to walk out. Luo Shi was so angry that a trace of blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth. Which side was this Yi Fei on? Luo Shi could only sullenly take another step back. We'll split it 50-50. This is my last concession. All right, since we're neighbors, we'll split it 50-50. Yi Fei nodded immediately. He felt that this wasn't a bad idea. He wouldn't have to do anything to get half of the silver tokens. This little risk was worth it. I'd rather never be neighbors with you, Luo Shi said with a pained expression. Yi Fei couldn't help but smile. Over the past few days, Luo Shi had been putting on a cold face and privately begging people to change dormitories. It was as if he was the god of plague. Now that this fellow had sulked a little, Yi Fei's mood improved. You continue cultivating. I'll hide first and launch a sneak attack, Yi Fei told Luo Shi. His entire body was like a gecko as he moved along the entrance of the cave and hid in a very secret crevice at the top of the cave. Luo Shi's eyes lit up when he saw this. Although Yi Fei was arrogant and egotistical, this move was indeed beautiful. Luo Shi was very cooperative and pretended that he was still trying his best to recuperate. At that moment, a shout came from outside. Then, the sound of hurried footsteps rushed into the cave. Haha, senior brother Zheng Hao, there's a secret cave here. There are also bloodstains. Luo, she must be hiding inside to recuperate. Cut the crap. Follow me and rush in. We'll snatch that silver token. If Luo, she dares to stop us, kill him immediately. Zheng Hao's voice was sinister as he rushed in quickly. Behind him were two disciples in the 10th level of the martial master realm. Yi Fei finally understood why Luo Shi, who was a martial ancestor realm cultivator, had been injured. It turned out that it had been 3 against 1. Zheng Hao, who was also a martial ancestor realm cultivator, relied on his strength to rush in. He didn't even bother to check the situation around him. He just stared straight at Luo Shi, who was still trying his best to recuperate. Luo Shi was also very shocked. Zheng Hao, I have no enmity with you. Are you really going to kill me over a silver token? A person was at their weakest when they were recuperating. Zheng Hao, who saw that Luo Shi was indeed recuperating, shook his head proudly and said, Luo Shi, you are also one of the 10 great geniuses. Although you are not as good as me, who is ranked 9th, I can still let you off. Unfortunately, you shouldn't have rejected Ouyang Jia. What do you mean? Luo Shi's expression was ugly as he glanced at the rock wall above the cave. Yi Fei was slightly stunned. He felt that Luo Shi's words had a hidden meaning. It seemed like he was trying to remind him of something through Zheng Hao. When Zheng Hao heard this, he snorted coldly. Hee, Luo Shi, is there any use in playing the fool and stalling for time? Have you forgotten what the Ouyang Jia told us before we came in? If anyone sees Yi Fei, that demon, they must attack him with all their might. It would be best if they could cripple him and make him crawl in front of the Ouyang Jia. Other than Guman, all of the 10 great geniuses have agreed. You're the only one who dares to refuse. The Ouyang Jia has already spoken. If there's a chance, he won't mind if we kill you and turn the 10 great geniuses into the 9 great geniuses. Of course, if you are willing to hand over the silver token on you, I won't kill you. At most, I will break one of your arms. As he spoke, Zheng Hao laughed wildly. In his opinion, Luo, she wasn't even a match for him when he wasn't injured. Now that he was seriously injured, he could crush Luo, she with one hand. Chapter 135. Shock attack. Hearing the conversation between Luo, Shi, and Zheng Hao, Yifei realized that when Ouyang Jie made a bet with him, he had secretly joined forces with the 10 geniuses of the new disciples to deal with him. This Ouyang Jie really held a grudge. Of course, what angered Yifei the most was Zheng Hao. We don't have any grudges, but you want to take my life just to curry favor with the Ouyang Jie. Since you are so ruthless, don't blame me for being merciless. Yifei quickly jumped down from the crevice at the top of the cave. Without saying a word, he rushed towards the 2 new disciples who were slightly behind Zheng Hao. Not good. There's an ambush. We've been tricked. Luo, she even found helpers. To be able to pass the Demon Memorial Pagoda's test, they were all geniuses amongst geniuses. The 2 disciples' reactions were also very fast. Noticing that something was wrong with the airflow behind them, they didn't even look back as they sent out a punch and a kick. Unfortunately, although their attacks were fierce, Yifei had already made up his mind to launch a sneak attack. How could he not be prepared? When he jumped down, he had already activated the Devil Emperor Sutra and activated the Battle Demon Golden Body, causing Yifei's skin to glow with a layer of golden light. His physical body instantly entered the strongest state of the Martial Master realm. Although these 2 disciples also had the strength of a 10th level Martial Master, they were still unable to break through Yifei's golden body. Their punches and kicks landed on Yifei's body, but not even a single hair on Yifei's body was harmed. How is this possible? Is this guy made of iron? The 2 disciples were stunned. These were also the last 2 sentences they said. A flash of sword light had already slashed their necks, one after another. Their corpses fell to the ground, and their soul fragments were absorbed by the devouring spirit sword. Yifei, it's you. You actually teamed up with Luo, Shi to ambush us, and even killed 2 of my companions. Zheng Hao's reaction was much faster. When he realized that Luo, Shi had hidden a helper in the cave, he immediately jumped to the side vigilantly. But when he saw that it was Yifei who had ambushed his 2 lackeys, Zheng Hao was shocked. He suddenly clutched his stomach and laughed out loud. I can't take it anymore. I'm dying of laughter. Luo Shi, oh Luo Shi, you're really getting worse and worse. Of all the helpers you could have found, you actually found a piece of trash to be your helper. Have you said enough? If you have, you can die now. Yifei held the devouring soul sword, which was dripping with blood, and approached Zheng Hao step by step. Even if this person was a martial arts grandmaster expert, Yifei did not retreat even half a step. Originally, Yifei didn't plan to kill Zheng Hao, but Zheng Hao's words changed his mind. Since the 3 of them wanted to cripple him and claim credit from the Ouyang Jie, there was no need for him to be polite. Whoever offends me, I'll pay them back tenfold. When Luo, she saw that Yifei had actually killed Zheng Hao's 2 lackeys in one move, he had to admit that Yifei was indeed very strong. Then, Luo, she was overjoyed. Previously, he hadn't been able to defeat Zheng Hao because Zheng Hao and his 2 lackeys had surrounded him. Now that Zheng Hao's lackeys were all dead, Luo, she had nothing to be afraid of. Yifei, hold on a little longer. Once I finish my training, we will work together to kill Zheng Hao. Luo, she's face flashed with murderous intent. Anyone who had been chased all this way would be furious. Luo, she couldn't wait to attack. Yifei shook his head when he heard this and stopped Luo, she. Luo, she, don't interfere. Continue to treat your injuries. He's just a small fry. I alone am enough to deal with him. Yifei was very confident in defeating Zheng Hao. After all, he had already killed a 2nd stage martial ancestor realm expert not too long ago. Luo, she didn't know this. However, when he heard that Yifei wanted to take on Zheng Hao alone, his first reaction was that Yifei was too arrogant. He was just a martial master scum. How could he have the nerve to call Zheng Hao, who was a 2nd stage martial ancestor realm expert, a small fry? Arrogant and ignorant. You have a death wish. Luo, she was furious. It didn't matter if Yifei wanted to die. but he didn't want to drag him down with him. When he heard that Yi Fei wanted to take him on one-on-one and had even said such arrogant words, Zheng Hao was so angry that he couldn't bear to continue listening. You have a death wish, you piece of trash. You are just a martial master. How dare you look down on a martial ancestor realm expert like me, one of the top 10 geniuses. I will kill you today. Remember, the person who will kill you is called Zheng Hao. Zheng Hao also charged towards Yi Fei furiously. Before he arrived, a terrifying sword radiance had already pierced towards Yi Fei's throat. Yi Fei couldn't help but laugh when he saw this. You haven't even mastered sword intent, and you have a nerve to use a sword in front of me? Today, I will teach you what a real sword technique is. Hellfire Sword. Whoosh! The extraterrestrial divine flame in his body turned into hellfire and appeared on the devouring soul sword. Yi Fei also swung his sword. This sword was like a stormy sea. Without a sound, it had already shattered Zheng Hao's sword light. Clang! The two swords collided violently. The devouring soul sword carried the terrifying hellfire and easily burned Zheng Hao's long sword into a pile of scrap metal. Zheng Hao retreated in horror as he stared in disbelief at the blazing, devouring spirit sword in Yi Fei's hand. What kind of flame is that? It can even burn my upper-rank profound armament, but the sword in his hand is fine. I know, you trash, you actually have a magical artifact in your hand. In the world of martial arts, weapons were also categorized into ordinary weapons, superior profound weapons, precious bejeweled weapons, and so on. When Zheng Hao saw Yi Fei's devouring soul sword, he was shocked to discover that the sword in Yi Fei's hand was actually a bejeweled weapon. The difference between a profound weapon and a bejeweled weapon was like heaven and earth. Not only was Zheng Hao shocked, Luo, she was also shocked that Yi Fei actually had a bejeweled weapon. However, even if you fight one-on-one, you won't be able to close the gap between a martial master and a martial ancestor. Luo, she then shook his head. He still didn't think highly of Yi Fei. After Zheng Hao recovered from his shock, he quickly reacted and laughed heartily. Haha, today is really my lucky day. First, I found a silver token. Then, I met a piece of trash that Ouyang Jia must kill. Most importantly, this trash actually has a bejeweled weapon in his hand. Trash, since you brought me a treasure, I will let you die a quick death. I will let you experience my strongest fist technique, Raging Dragon Fist. Roar. The roar of a dragon resounded. As Zheng Hao waved his fist, the shadow of a green dragon appeared on his arm. Yi Fei then realized that Zheng Hao's strongest point wasn't his sword technique, but his fist technique. This was something that even Luo, she didn't realize. You have hidden your strength well. Unfortunately, you're still far from being able to kill me. Don't think that you're the only one with an Earth-class martial technique. Hellfire, Ghost God's Cry. Yi Fei changed the sword technique in his hand. The devouring soul sword, which had been filled with flames earlier, suddenly moved in an unpredictable manner. The faint sound of ghosts crying could be heard in the air. It wasn't a real cry, but the sound of sword chi piercing through the air. Zheng Hao didn't even have time to get close to him. Yi Fei had already sent out a formless sword chi that left a deep wound on Zheng Hao's arm. If Zheng Hao hadn't subconsciously dodged, Yi Fei's sword would have been enough to cut off Zheng Hao's arm. Impossible. How can your sword chi be invisible? Zheng Hao's face was ashen. He turned around and retreated in a sorry state, not daring to get close to Yi Fei. Before Zheng Hao got close, Yi Fei had already sent out 3 strikes. The first strike had cut Zheng Hao's arm, so where were the other 2 strikes? Zheng Hao was on high alert as he sensed every movement in the air around him. Luo Shi, who had just finished healing, was dumbfounded. What did he see? Zheng Hao, who was in the martial ancestor realm, had retreated in fear after receiving 2 strikes from Yi Fei. He even looked injured. Chapter 136. To make a fool of a Wu Zong, he was not mistaken. Yi Fei had really forced Zheng Hao back with a single sword strike. One could imagine the impact this had on Luo Shi's heart. Originally, Luo, she looked down on Yi Fei for daring to offend the Ouyang Jia when he did not have much strength. However, the scene before them had exceeded Luo Shi and Zheng Hao's expectations. Yi Fei did not say anything. He only watched with a cold expression as he retreated. The Hellfire Sword's greatest characteristic was that its sword aura could be invisible. As long as Zheng Hao was still within the attack range of his sword aura, there was no way he could escape. Woo-woo. The air trembled, emitting a sound that sounded like the weeping of ghosts and gods. As Zheng Hao dodged the first sword chi, two more sword chi slashed towards his head and neck, one from the left and one from the right. Roar! I don't care how strange your sword technique is. Shatter it all. Zheng Hao roared furiously. Two azure dragon illusions suddenly appeared on his fists. He ignored everything and directly blew up the surrounding space. Of course, the two invisible sword chis were destroyed, just like that. Zheng Hao is using force to break through technique. After all, he is an expert at the second level of the martial arts Grandmaster realm. His realm is much higher than Yi Fei's. No matter how strong his swordsmanship is, it is useless in front of absolute strength. Luo Jing shook his head and was ready to attack. Don't come over. I won't take responsibility if you get hurt. Yi Fei was still calm. He was not surprised that Zheng Hao could shatter the sword chi. After all, Zheng Hao was a martial arts grandmaster. Even if he could not see the sword chi, he could roughly sense its location. However, you only have two hands. I like to see how many streaks of sword chi, hellfire, and chaos of ghosts and gods you can shatter at the same time. Boom! Yi Fei pushed the true essence in his body to the limit and finally used the strongest move of the Hellfire Sword. Streaks of sword chi formed a meteor of sword chi that simultaneously disappeared into the void and instantly appeared in front of Zheng Hao. This made Zheng Hao so angry that he almost vomited blood. What he was best at was actually close combat attacks. For example, Yi Fei's long-range and invisible sword chi greatly restricted Zheng Hao's ability to unleash his strength. As a result, a martial arts grandmaster expert was actually suppressed by Yi Fei from beginning to end. Humiliation. Absolute humiliation. Zheng Hao was so angry that he roared. He could only escape in a very sorry state. At the same time, he kept roaring at Yi Fei. If you have the guts, fight me head-on. Do you only know how to play these little tricks? Are you still a man? Scram. I don't think you're a man. Do you think we're stupid? If we can crush you like a dog, why will we fight you head-on? Luo, she sneered wantonly. When he saw Zheng Hao being forced to jump around by the invisible sword chi, Luo, she felt particularly relieved. Ignoring Luo Shi, Yi Fei suddenly frowned. On the surface, his invisible sword energy had forced Zheng Hao into a difficult situation. However, this was based on the fact that Zheng Hao was not familiar with the invisible sword chi. In fact, the Hellfire Sword was not unbreakable. As long as he could figure out how the invisible sword chi appeared, then no matter how invisible the sword chi was, it would not be able to harm a martial arts grandmaster expert like Zheng Hao. When he heard Zheng Hao's words, Yi Fei decisively put away the soul-devouring sword and nodded. All right, you want to fight me head-on, right? Bring it on. Yi Fei, are you crazy? Luo, she almost vomited blood when he heard this. When he saw that Yi Fei was actually able to suppress Zheng Hao, he had already changed his opinion of Yi Fei and admitted that Yi Fei did indeed have a certain level of strength. Who would have thought that after a short while, this guy would reveal his true colors and become arrogant and reckless? With Luo Shi's eyesight, he could tell that Yi Fei had the upper hand by relying on the strangeness of the invisible sword chi. Without the sword chi, with his trashy strength of a 10th stage martial master, facing Zheng Hao would be no different from suicide. Let me help you. Luo Shi could no longer bear to watch. He moved his body and was about to rush forward to replace Yi Fei in fighting Zheng Hao. At this moment, Zheng Hao sensed that the sword chi around him had indeed disappeared. He was delighted and looked at Yi Fei as if he was looking at an idiot. Ha ha ha, you piece of trash. Your brain must be damaged. Without the invisible sword chi, I only need one punch to kill you. Furious dragon fist, fury of the azure dragon. Roar! Roar! The dragon's roar shook the sky. Zheng Hao knew that this was a rare opportunity and rushed toward Yi Fei before Luo she could reach him. The huge azure dragon shadow aimed at Yi Fei and attacked him with a powerful sure-kill blow. Devouring sword intent. Yi Fei sneered. A true swordsman does not rely on the weapon in his hand, but on the indestructible sword intent in his heart. Today, I'll let you experience the terror of the sword. The sword intent soared to the sky. Although he was not using a sword, the sword chi that Yi Fei released was even more dazzling and brilliant than when he was using a sword. That sword light even tore the void apart, forming a terrifying black hole and slicing the azure dragon phantom in half on the spot. Of course, Zheng Hao's body was also cut in half. His body, which was charging forward, suddenly stiffened. Then, Zheng Hao's face was filled with shock and fear. He struggled to say the last sentence, sword intent. It's actually sword intent, bam. His shattered body fell to the ground 3 meters away from Yi Fei. Until his death, Zheng Hao's eyes were wide open and his face was filled with fear. Gulp. There was another strange sound in the cave. It was the sound of Luo Shi swallowing his saliva because he was too shocked. Yi Fei, you already have sword intent? How did you comprehend it at such a low level? Luo Shi looked at Yi Fei with fear and curiosity. He even started to stutter when he spoke. One must know that martial intent was not that easy to grasp. In theory, if there were no accidents, Earth-grade geniuses would be able to grasp their own martial intent in the future. However, that was usually the case for martial ancestor Rel 5 and above. For someone like Yi Fei, who could comprehend complete sword intent at the martial master realm, he was a monster. At this moment, Luo Shi began to understand why Yi Fei did not care about offending Ouyang Jie. Do you want to know? Yi Fei looked back. Yes. Luo Shi nodded without hesitation. That's a secret. You have to know. If you call me your brother, I can make an exception and tell you. Yi Fei carefully put away the devouring soul sword with a cloth. Luo Shi's face was filled with dissatisfaction. Of course, he could not really call him that. However, he still changed his words and asked, Senior brother Yi, what should we do now? Unconsciously, Luo Shi had already lowered his posture. Yi Fei's shocking performance just now had really stunned this kid. Even now, he was still somewhat in a daze. Yi Fei didn't force Luo Shi. Instead, he walked out of the cave and said, We've caused such a big commotion. We can't stay here any longer. Let's go somewhere else to talk. While you're at it, search these corpses. Search? Why am I the one searching? Why don't you do it yourself? Luo Shi was angry when he saw Yi Fei's attitude. Because I'm stronger than you. Chapter 137. Get a map. Although he was depressed, the world of martial arts was like this. The strong were respected. Yi Fei was stronger than Luo Yin, and he could be considered to have saved Luo Yin's life. It wasn't too much to ask him to do something small. Besides, Yi Fei wasn't ordering Luo Shi around on purpose. He was just considering that Luo Shi's injuries hadn't healed yet. If he went out rashly and got ambushed, wouldn't be good. Standing outside the cave, Yi Fei did not immediately walk out. Instead, he raised his hand and shot out a beam of sword energy. If there was someone around, they would definitely show themselves. If there was no one around, then he could walk out without worry. Boom! The sword chi shot out, and outside the cave, there was the sound of a mechanism being activated. Then, a huge pit appeared on the ground. Sure enough, there's an ambush. Yi Fei's face revealed an unsurprised expression. After all, he was a martial arts grandmaster. If Zheng Hao dared to charge into the cave without any preparation, he would be too brainless. Damn Zheng Hao, he actually set up a trap outside. At this moment, Luo Shi was also done with the body search. He carried a bunch of things out. When he saw the pit outside, Luo Shi's expression changed. Only then did he realize how dangerous it had been. If not for Yi Fei's help, he would have been found by Zheng Hao. Even if he could escape, he would definitely have fallen into Zheng Hao's trap and died. When he thought of this, Luo Shi suddenly stopped complaining about Yi Fei ordering him around. Luo Shi glanced at Yi Fei somewhat bashfully and said, "Senior brother Yi, about that, thank you. What are you talking about? If you're a man, then be more straightforward. Are you done with all the good stuff?" Yi Fei interrupted Luo Shi. He was so awkward even when thanking her. She couldn't tell that this cold kid actually had a shy side to him. "We've searched everything. We didn't even leave a single gold note for them," Luo Shi said happily. Yi Fei was sweating profusely. This kid was really thorough in his search. He wasn't even willing to let go of the gold notes that were completely useless in the Holy Land. However, this was clearly not the place to talk. Yi Fei pointed to another mountain in the distance and said, "Let's talk over there." With his powerful mental strength, he could vaguely sense that there were disciples nearby who had heard the commotion and were hurrying over. Thus, with Yi Fei in front and Luo Shi behind, the two of them quickly left this place. After running for a full 2 hours, they finally arrived at the relatively safe barren mountain. Yi Fei and Luo Shi worked together again and dug a hole in the wall. The two of them hid inside. Luo Shi excitedly pointed at the pile of items in front of him and said, "Senior brother Yi, how do you think we should split these? What's there to share? These are all mine. You didn't do anything, so you don't have a share." Yi Fei didn't hold back and took all the things that Luo Shi had found. Yi Fei was confident. After all, he was the one who had killed Zheng Hao and the other two. He had even saved Luo Shi's life. Of course, Zheng Hao and the other two's belongings should belong to him. Luo Shi was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. He was the one who had found the items, but in the end, he didn't have a share. What kind of logic was this? "Senior brother, at least give me something." Luo Shi simply put on an old face and begged. "It's useless even if you call me Martial Uncle. If you call me Brother Yi, then you might have a chance." Yi Fei didn't even raise his head as he picked through the pile. "You." Luo Shi was extremely sullen. Before he could speak, Yi Fei suddenly took out a martial art from the pile of black iron tokens and threw it to Luo Shi, saying, "This thing is useless to me. If you like it, take it. It's actually the Raging Dragon Fist, a low-grade Earth-level martial art." Luo Shi was so shocked that he almost couldn't speak. Then, he couldn't bear to part with it and quickly hid it away. He also found Yi Fei pleasing to the eye. Yi Fei couldn't help but laugh inwardly. This Luo Shi was really naive. A low-grade Earth-level martial art was enough to buy him over. "That's right. Where's the silver token?" Yi Fei watched Luo Shi put away the martial art before asking the most important question. With their previous cooperation and the fact that Yi Fei had saved Luo Shi's life, Luo Shi was very straightforward this time. "Here, this is the silver token. Consider me unlucky. As soon as I found it, I was targeted by that bastard Zheng Hao. I didn't even have time to see what was inside." Luo Shi handed the silver token to Yi Fei. When he opened it, Yi Fei discovered that there were two things hidden in the middle of the token. They were two white, jade-like elixirs and a rolled-up map. "What's going on? It's a silver token. Why are there only two Earth-level elixirs?" Yi Fei was very unhappy. These things couldn't even compare to a bronze token. The last time he found the bronze token, there were 3 Earth-grade medicinal pills inside. Could it be that this brat was hiding them? Yi Fei looked at Luo Shi suspiciously. However, he discovered that Luo Shi's eyes were glued to the elixirs. He then said excitedly, "Senior brother Yi, we've struck it rich this time. These two are Earth-level 3rd-grade body-tempering elixirs. They can cleanse the muscles and marrow. It's very rare. As expected of a silver token, there are actually 2 of them at once." "What? Body-tempering elixirs?" Yi Fei was very surprised. He had heard his father mention this elixir before. It was said that it was 10 times stronger than the spirit-gathering elixir. Through Luo Shi's words, Yi Fei also guessed that once an elixir reached the Earth level, it would be divided into different grades, just like the quality of the Dantian. For example, the Earth-level elixir he won from Ouyang Jia at the Demon Pagoda should be the worst, a Earth-level first-grade spirit gathering elixir. And this silver token gave out 2 Earth-level third-grade body-tempering elixirs at once. The Sacred Land was really generous. Yifei looked at Luo Shi and said, "Luo Shi, according to our previous agreement, we'll each take one. As for this map, we'll discuss how to split it after refining the body-tempering elixirs. What do you think?" "I have no problem with that." Luo Shi nodded and impatiently took the body-tempering elixir. He ran to the side and swallowed it. "Great. I was just worried about not having an elixir to completely heal my injuries. With this body-tempering elixir, I'll definitely be able to recover quickly. Healing doesn't matter to me. The most important thing for me now is to raise my cultivation as soon as possible. I just don't know how much this body-tempering elixir can increase my strength by." Yifei also sat on the other side and swallowed the body-tempering elixir. He activated the Devil Imperial Sutra and began refining it. At this time, it also showed the huge difference between Yifei and Luo Shi's cultivation methods. When Luo Shi refined the body-tempering elixir, it didn't take long for him to be so tired that he was covered in sweat. White steam was coming out of his head, and there were countless impurities on his body. He had no choice but to stop and rest for a while. As for Yifei, he was circulating the Devil Emperor scripture. Absorbing the medicinal efficacies of the body-tempering pill was as simple as eating and drinking. This was the result of Yifei trying his best to suppress the undying sword soul within his body. If he were to use the undying sword soul, he would probably be able to swallow the body-tempering pill whole. At the same time, when Yifei circulated the Devil Imperial Sutra, his whole body was solemn and dignified. Not only did he not have the slightest demonic aura, but there was also a faint golden light constantly flowing on his skin, forming all kinds of ancient symbols. He was like a god descending to the mortal world. Seeing this scene, Luo Shi almost forgot to heal his injuries. He just opened his mouth in shock. This Yifei, what kind of cultivation method is he cultivating? It actually makes me feel like I'm being completely suppressed. No, this guy is too abnormal. I have to stay away from him and cultivate. Unable to bear the terrifying pressure of Yifei's cultivation of the Devil Imperial Sutra, Luo Shi hurriedly stood up. Finally, he retreated to the entrance of the cave. Only then did he feel a little better. He sat down again and began to circulate his energy to heal his injuries. Chapter 138. Bend the rules inside the pocket world. Yifei and Luo Shi were still absorbing Earth-level pills to increase their strength. Outside the pocket world, Elder Tian Yin and the other 4 elders were also having an intense discussion. Senior and junior brothers, this old man reckons that the competition for the tokens among the new disciples is about to come to an end. I think that they have also clearly recognized their own strength. I think that now is the time to follow the will of the higher-ups and change some of the rules of the ranking battle. It was Elder Xian Mo who spoke. At the same time, she was also Gu Man's master. In the outer sect, Xian Mo had a lot of authority. When they heard her words, 2 elders immediately nodded in agreement. It was rare for Elder Heavenly Flame to agree with Elder Xian Mo. He didn't raise any objections. Only Elder Tian Xin still cared about these new disciples. When he heard this, he asked hesitantly, "Senior brothers, should we start now? Why don't we wait a little longer? The new disciples in there have just gone through a fierce battle in order to fight for the tokens. If we send those old disciples in such a short time, we'll be caught unprepared." Ha ha ha, that's exactly what we want. Our holy land will only nurture true geniuses. There's no point in keeping those disciples who can't make any progress after encountering some difficulties, one of the elders said. Elder Xian Mo looked at Elder Tian Xin with displeasure and said disdainfully, "Soft-hearted, changing the rules and increasing the difficulty of the ranking battle was originally in order from the inner sect. We're just carrying it out. This is also to nurture more outstanding disciples." That may be the case, but the inner sect said that we should try it out. They didn't say that we have to change it now. We can give the disciples a few more days to increase their strength before we change it. This way, we can reduce the number of casualties as much as possible. Elder Tianxin argued. Who would have thought that this would provoke Elder Heavenly Flame? It had to be known that the decision to change the rules wasn't only approved by Elder Xianmo. Elder Heavenly Flame had also secretly put in a lot of effort in order to help Ouyang Jie obtain first place and reduce the risk as much as possible. In the end, all four elders had nodded, but this junior brother was still speaking nonsense. Elder Heavenly Flame didn't want to hear this at all. Thus, he interrupted him impolitely. Tianxin, stop talking. We all agreed. You better be sensible. If you still want to stay in the outer sect, you'd better not go against us. Yeah, Ouyang Jie is great master Tian Xinu. Elder Heavenly Flame agreed. Yi Fei too. Master Heavenly Flame sect. Obviously, these elders to Fei Tian Xinu was. Elder Heavens and Heavenly Flame, Heavenly Elders and Heavenly Flame. Heavenly Elders, Heavenly Yang Realm, you 9 Heavenly Realm, to Yin Heavens, 9 Heavenly Heavens Sect, Heavenly Realm, Heavenly Realm Heavens, Heavenly Sect, Heavenly Elders, Heavenly Elder, Heavenly Elders, Elders. These elders naturally wouldn't tolerate any unexpected factors. Elder Tianxin also understood this. Thus, he felt a little sad for the new disciples inside. If they knew that there was no point in fighting to the death inside, and that the ranking battle's rankings had already been decided by the elders, how sad would that be? However, Elder Tianxin simply didn't have the guts to stop all this. All he could do was sigh, flick his sleeves, and walk to the side without saying another word. Elder Heavenly Flame and Elder Xianmo exchanged a glance. They had a tacit understanding as they joined forces with the other two elders to make changes to the rules of the small world. The sound of rolling thunder was like a sudden clap of thunder that exploded in the ears of the many disciples who were still fighting in the small world. Disciples, listen up. From now on, the rules of the ranking battle will be changed. In order to let more outstanding disciples stand out, we will increase the difficulty of this ranking battle. The tokens that were given to you previously were just an appetizer. The purpose was to let you have the ability to protect yourselves. Now, the real ranking battle will begin. Every year, our sacred ground will eliminate a large number of outer sect disciples who have no achievements and are just waiting to die in the sacred ground. In the past, these disciples were directly expelled from the sacred ground. However, from today onwards, they will have a chance to stay in the sacred ground. We will also let these eliminated disciples enter the small world and let them snatch your identity tokens. Any disciple whose identity token is snatched will replace them and be expelled from the sacred ground. The older disciples who snatch the identity tokens will remain in the sacred ground and continue to cultivate. Boom! The elders' rolling thunder reverberated in the sky above the small world. All the disciples who were still fighting over the tokens were shocked. What? The rules of the ranking battle are going to be changed? Damn it. I'm still injured and I don't even have time to heal myself. Why do the rules have to be changed now? This is unfair. That's right, it's unfair. Those older disciples have been cultivating in the sacred ground for so long. If they come in, how can we survive? Ridiculous. Those so-called older disciples were all kicked out by the sacred ground because they couldn't break through to the third martial ancestor realm. No matter how long they have cultivated, they only have that bit of strength. They're just a bunch of trash. What is there to be afraid of? So what if they're older disciples? If we encounter them, the older disciples will still kill them. Many of the new disciples were worried. Of course, there were also a small number of people who were secretly happy. They were all very confident in their own strength, especially Ouyang Jie, Gu Man, and a few other geniuses. They had already received the special care of the elders and were even more disdainful of the new disciples. Now, Ouyang Jie was looking for Yi Fei all over the small world. However, when he entered the small world, everyone was randomly selected. Ouyang Jie searched for a long time, but couldn't find him. That loathsome Wang Ba was also nowhere to be seen. This made Ouyang Jie angry all the way. That brat called Yi Fei is pretty strong. Unfortunately, he shouldn't have offended Ouyang Jie. Even more so, he shouldn't have offended me, Guman. Somewhere in the small world, Guman was holding a pile of silver tokens with a cold expression on his face. As the most valued disciple of Elder Xianmo, he certainly knew that the reason why the elders had changed the rules so quickly was to pave the way for Ouyang Jie. This also made Guman extremely jealous. Guman had never treated Yi Fei as an opponent. At most, he was a little curious that Yi Fei was the same as him, walking the path of body refinement. In Guman's heart, he only had one opponent in the outer court, and that was Ouyang Jie. Similarly, in Ouyang Jie's heart, it was the same, especially in the Demon Memorial Pagoda. Both of them had failed to pass the trial and suffered a setback. Now, both of them were suppressing their strength. They wanted to use this ranking battle to snatch back their lost glory from each other's hands. The ranking battle's rules have actually changed. Isn't this too fast? Inside the cave, Yi Fei naturally heard the voices of the elders that resounded throughout the small world. His face couldn't help but turn solemn. Even if they were to be chased away, they were still senior disciples. Whether it was in terms of cultivation or martial arts, senior disciples who had cultivated for many years were definitely stronger than the new disciples. At this time, the elders had let this group of senior disciples in. Aside from a small number of geniuses, the rest of the ordinary disciples would probably be wiped out. Why did the elders do this? What benefits would this bring to the sacred land? Yi Fei couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Soon after, he had an answer to his doubts. Chapter 139. The old disciples make a move. Now, the second stage of the ranking battle has officially begun. All the old disciples who enter the small world can snatch the identity tokens of the new disciples, but only one token. On the other hand, considering that the new disciples are weaker, you can use any method to snatch the identity tokens of the old disciples. In the end, the one who obtains the most contribution points will be the first place of the ranking battle. The voices of the elders resounded for a total of 2 or 3 times in the small world before returning to silence. However, the new disciples of the small world were already in an uproar as they discussed among themselves. Some of the weaker new disciples knew that they were no match for the old disciples and that elimination was only a matter of time. They all stomped their feet and beat their chests as they looked at the sky in despair. Some genius disciples were confident in their strength and couldn't wait for the old disciples to enter the small world so that they could snatch their identity tokens and raise their rankings. There were also some smart people who opened their mouths and started calling for their friends. Let's form a team. Those who don't want to be caught by those eliminated senior brothers and lose their identity tokens, come and form a team. Let's stick together. No matter how strong the senior brothers are, we'll see who dares to provoke us. That's right. We're not as strong as those senior brothers, but we can form a team. Count me in. I'll join too. Strong teams seeking cooperation. Let's join forces and snatch the identity tokens of the old disciples. If you have the guts, come. Some people formed a team for warmth. Of course, there were also a small number of powerful new disciples who would join forces and wait for the old disciples to appear so that they could snatch their tokens. After all, the elders had said that the rules of the ranking battle had changed. In the past, the rankings were determined by the level of the tokens that were snatched and converted into Holy Land contribution points. After the change in the rules, other than the level of the tokens, the identity tokens of the old disciples would also be added to the rankings. At the same time, the Holy Land also stipulated that the contribution points that the new disciples obtained in the ranking battle could be exchanged for the corresponding martial arts or treasures in the Holy Land. From this point of view, although the change in the rules was very sudden, it was a very good opportunity for the new disciples to earn contribution points. Yi Fei quickly sorted out the information in his mind. He suddenly felt that the participation of these old disciples might not be a bad thing for him. Luo, she was even more excited as he looked at Yi Fei. The purpose of the ranking battle for the new disciples is to compete for contribution points from the Holy Land, especially for the older disciples. They have been in the Holy Land for many years and must have accumulated a lot of contribution points. Senior Brother Yi, this is a great opportunity for us to earn contribution points. Yi Fei, of course, understood what Luo Shi meant. His expression was strange. You want to work with me? Aren't you afraid of offending the Ouyang Jia? Humph. From the moment I rejected Ouyang Jia, I've already offended him. It doesn't matter if I cooperate with you now. Luo Shi's face was a little ugly. All right then, let's work together. Yi Fei nodded indifferently. Although he was confident in his own strength, those were all senior disciples after all. Their strength was not ordinary. It was inevitable that he would be at a disadvantage in a one-on-one fight. It was not bad to have Luo Shi as a helper, especially since he wanted to try to take first place and win Ouyang Jia's flying technique book. There was no news about the change in the rules of the ranking battle this time. But with the elders' favoritism towards Ouyang Jia, this brat must have known about it long ago. Who knows what kind of treatment he received? That's why he forced me to bet with him again. However, the participation of the old disciples is a great opportunity for me and Luo Shi to earn a lot of contribution points. For those disciples whose strength and cultivation levels are very low, especially Wang Bai, this is a very serious challenge. He hoped that Wang Bai would be fine. Yi Fei shook his head and then slowly withdrew his cultivation. He walked out of the hidden place with Luo Shi. Since the old disciples had already participated, there was no point in continuing to hide. After all, every old disciple had experienced the ranking battle in the small world. They must be more familiar with this place. Since it was impossible to hide, they could only face it calmly. Senior Brother Yi, what should we do about this map? Should we wait for the old disciples to appear first, or should we search for the treasure on the map first? Luo Shi held the silver token map and asked Yi Fei for his opinion. The martial world was like this. The strong were respected. Yi Fei's cultivation level was low, but his strength was much higher than Luo Shi's. Luo Shi subconsciously let Yi Fei make the decision. Let's search for the treasure before the old disciples arrive, Yi Fei said. When the old disciples arrived, there would definitely be an intense battle. At that time, whether or not they would have time to search for the treasure was another matter. It was better to act now to be safe. Luo Shi's thoughts were similar to Yi Fei's. Seeing Yi Fei speed up and rush towards the location indicated on the map, Luo Shi gritted his teeth and hurried after him. The two figures quickly disappeared into the dense forest ahead. At the same time, several white lights flashed in the place where they had stopped. A total of 3 outer disciples wearing the Holy Land's uniform were transported in. Haha, we finally returned to this small world. Let's see how those new disciples will die this time. Fellow junior brothers, this is our last chance to stay in the Holy Land. Don't hold back. If you see those new rookies, beat them to death. Cultivating in the Holy Land is our greatest glory. If we are kicked out, it will be the greatest stain on our lives. Even if we are kicked out, we must torture a few new rookies to death before we are satisfied. The old disciples that appeared all had a heavy and vicious aura around them. In order to not be kicked out of the Holy Land, they would definitely use the cruelest methods to torture the new disciples and seize their identity tokens. For example, in some parts of the small world, there were several new disciples who had been left alone. They were unlucky enough to be discovered by the old disciples who had been transported in. These senior disciples immediately rushed up with hideous smiles. Without saying a word, they had already crippled or killed the new disciples. Then, they were satisfied to obtain their identity tokens. Of course, most of the new disciples had already formed groups of various sizes as fast as they could, doing their best to deal with these old disciples. After all, it was not easy for anyone to join the Holy Land. Even if they died, many new disciples were not willing to be kicked out of the Holy Land. That would not only be a disgrace to themselves, but also to their families and parents. Let's go too. There are traces of people passing by there. There must be new disciples who pass by here. Of the 3 old disciples that appeared near the cave, one of them was squatting in the area where Yi Fei and Luo Shi had passed by. His eyes were very sharp, and he was able to instantly identify the footprints and the direction they had left in. There are two new rookies. Looking at their path, they seem to have entered the forest ahead. Isn't that better? There are 3 of us and only 2 of them. We can catch these 2 rookies and torture them. It would be even better if there were 2 female disciples inside. Chapter 140. Century-old dragon Fruit Yi Fei, who had walked into the forest, had no idea that their whereabouts had been discovered by the 3 senior disciples. This was the biggest difference between a new disciple and an old disciple. In the end, he was still too inexperienced. Unlike these senior disciples, who had remained in the sanctum for many years, even if their cultivation hadn't improved by much, they had still grasped many unknown tracking methods. Along the way, Yi Fei and Luo, she were also very careful. They tried their best to avoid bumping into the surrounding vicious beasts. Luo, she even released his Wu Zong aura to intimidate some sinister demonic beasts that might be lurking in the dark. Following the map's guidance, the 2 of them quickly arrived at the entrance of a valley. Originally, there were 2 golden pythons entrenched here. Luo, she did not need Yi Fei to say anything. He immediately unleashed his martial arts Grandmaster aura and murderous aura. He berated the 2 golden pythons. Why aren't you leaving? Do you really want to force us to attack? Boom. Luo, she forcefully stomped on the ground, causing 2 long cracks to appear on the ground, forcing the 2 golden pythons to quickly retreat. Seeing that Luo, she was not to be trifled with, the 2 golden pythons reluctantly left. Yi Fei's expression was a little surprised. This Luo, she really showed off his skills. Generally, in the same realm, the strength of a demonic beast was generally stronger than that of a martial artist. The 2 golden pythons in front of him had reached the 10th level of the martial master realm, and there were 2 of them at once. If they joined forces, they would not be at a disadvantage, even if they were to face a 1st or 2nd level martial ancestor. Yet, they were actually ordered to retreat by Luo Shi's words. Then, Yi Fei recalled the faint wave of mind energy that was emitted when Luo Shi spoke. He nodded and said, "So you've mastered the method of taming beasts. Did you use your mind energy to make them feel fear?" "Senior brother Yi, you knew that I was using my spiritual power just now. Could it be that you also know how to control beasts?" Luo Shi looked as if he had seen a ghost. He originally wanted to show off his skills in front of Yi Fei and show off his strength. Who would have thought that Yi Fei would actually see through his secret? That's right, the Luo clan was the beast-taming clan of the 18 nations of the North Sea. The beast-taming technique was passed down in the family, but Luo, she had never mentioned this to anyone. "I don't know how to tame beasts. I just happen to sense your mental fluctuations." Yi Fei told the truth. He realized that the spiritual will that the sword maniac elder had injected into his body last time was really amazing. This wisp of consciousness had not only helped him comprehend 20% of the sword intent, but it had also sharpened Yi Fei's senses. This was also why he had been able to sense that Luo, she had released his mind power. Seeing that the 2 golden pythons had really been scared away, Yi Fei didn't say anything else. He lifted his foot and walked into the valley. Luo, she followed closely behind. Looking at Yi Fei's back, he couldn't help but feel curious. He took a step forward and said, "Yi Fei, when I first met you, I actually looked down on you. I thought you were overestimating yourself. You actually dared to fight with a genius like Ouyang Jie. But after seeing you fight, I realized that you're not the arrogant and ignorant person I thought you were. On the contrary, you are very strong and have potential. But why must you offend Ouyang Jie?" This was also what Luo, she couldn't figure out the most. Although in his opinion, Yi Fei had a lot of potential, there was still a huge gap between him and Ouyang Jie. Even if Ouyang Jie had offended Yi Fei should have kept a low profile and secretly improved his strength. Wouldn't it be better for him to do so? Luo, she wasn't the only one who couldn't understand why Yi Fei had directly confronted Ouyang Jie. 99% of the new disciples thought that Yi Fei was either crazy or too arrogant. Do you think I'm very arrogant and conceited? I don't even care about Ouyang Jia? Yifei looked at Luo Shi with a half-smile. This child was still too naive. His thoughts were written all over his face. But this was also why Yifei was willing to cooperate with Luo Shi. At least he didn't have to worry about Luo Shi stabbing him in the back. Something like that. I'm not the only one who thinks so. Many of the new disciples think so too. Luo Shi scratched his head in embarrassment. He thought back to a few days ago. He had been afraid of being implicated by Yifei and had even begged the elders to change his dormitory so that he wouldn't be Yifei's neighbor. Yifei didn't get angry when he heard Luo Shi's negative evaluation. It was normal for him to think this way. Seeing that Luo Shi was still pleasing to the eye, Yifei made an exception and gave him some pointers. That's just your mediocre opinion. A martial artist's cultivation is like rowing a boat against the current. You have to forge ahead bravely and not take even half a step back. Because if you take a step back, not only will you lose face, you might also lose your life. I think that a martial artist's cultivation should be based on the strength of the opponent. If you take a step back or swallow your anger because of a little setback or difficulty, then you're not a martial artist. You're a coward. A martial artist should have an indomitable spirit. Fight the heavens, the earth, and people. This is my martial path. This was the first time Yifei had spoken of his martial path beliefs in front of others. A real man should fight the heavens and the earth. He should persevere and never give in. This was the path he wanted to walk. Luo Shi was deeply moved when he heard this. He hadn't expected that Yifei would actually comprehend a martial path that belonged solely to him, while many disciples were still talking about which martial techniques were more powerful. It was no wonder that Yifei had been able to comprehend sword intent at such a young age. It was no wonder that Yifei had dared to face the provocation of a super genius like Ouyang Jia with such low strength. It wasn't that Yifei was arrogant, but that Yifei would never give in the face of difficulties. Thank you for your pointers, senior brother. I've learned a lot. Luo Shi bowed his head to Yifei emotionally. He was sincerely convinced that Yifei had addressed him as senior brother. Yifei didn't seem happy about Luo Shi's gratitude. Instead, his expression turned very serious. There's no need to thank me. Let's wait until we're alive. Someone is following us. It's very likely that it's one of the senior disciples. This valley was very hidden. Without a map, the average new disciple wouldn't have been able to find this place. Only the senior disciples who had participated in the ranking battles could track them down so quickly. What? Senior disciples are following us? Why didn't I sense them? Although Luo Shi knew the art of beast taming, his mind power wasn't as strong as Yifei's. The range of his senses was also very limited. Let's find a place to hide first. Yifei didn't act rashly. After all, he didn't understand the strength of the senior disciples. He couldn't act blindly without thinking. Luo Shi didn't ask any more questions. The two of them found a big, hidden tree and hid inside. In the middle of the valley, not far from the big tree, there was a strange plant that was flickering with flames. Yifei's eyes lit up when he saw it. He knew that this was probably the spirit herb that had been marked on the map. The two golden pythons were entrenched here just now to guard this spirit tree. Just as Yifei was thinking about it, in the forest, three figures quickly rushed over. Each of them exuded a shocking aura of hostility and killing intent. They must have killed many monsters along the way and forced their way here. Strange. Third brother, is there a problem with your tracking technique? Where are the two new disciples? Why aren't they here? Haha, forget about the two new disciples. But I found something better. Look at what's growing in the valley. It seems to be a dragon fruit. What? Dragon fruit? I heard from a senior brother who entered the small world that he once obtained 100-year-old dragon fruit. As a result, he broke through 2 realms in a row within a month. 2 realms is still low. I got reliable news that if the dragon fruit is cultivated with the heavenly spiritual pool, it can temporarily eliminate the martial arts barrier. It's most precious when used to break through a realm. The 3 senior disciples looked at the dragon fruit tree not far away. Their greedy eyes turned red. They didn't forget to show off their knowledge to each other. Chapter 141. One against three. Fei and Luo. She looked at each other and saw the determination in each other's eyes. The dragon fruit was so precious. If they didn't know about it, it would have been fine. But now that they knew, they definitely couldn't miss it. Then, Yifei looked at the strength of the three senior disciples. There were 2 martial arts grandmasters in the first stage and 1 martial arts grandmaster in the second stage. Yifei was speechless. They've been cultivating in the Holy Land for a few years, yet their strength is still so low. No wonder the Holy Land wants to kick them out. Hearing Yifei's words, Luo, she was even more speechless. It seemed that the person with the lowest cultivation level here was senior brother Yifei. However, even though Yifei's cultivation level was low, his terrifying sword essence was enough to easily kill a martial arts grandmaster expert. This was also the reason why Luo, she was willing to call Yifei senior brother. Senior brother Yi, what should we do? Should we attack? Luo, she was slightly excited and nervous. Although the dragon fruit was precious, these 3 senior disciples were not easy to deal with, especially since they had cultivated in the Holy Land for a few years. God knew if they had mastered any powerful martial arts. Luo Shi's worries were also shared by Yifei. Of course, although he was worried, Yifei still steeled himself when he saw the 3 senior disciples heading straight for the valley to pick the dragon fruit. The brave ones will be stuffed to death, and the cowardly ones will starve to death. Luo Shi, let's go all out. I'll go out and hold them back. You take the opportunity to snatch the dragon fruit for me. Yifei's eyes flashed with a ferocious light. What he urgently needed now was to increase his strength. He had to get the dragon fruit. What? Senior brother Yi, you want to stall 3 martial ancestor realm experts by yourself? Luo, she was a little dumbfounded. He knew that Yifei was very powerful, but even he, Luo Shi, who was also a martial ancestor realm expert, could not do it. Could Yifei really do it? It wasn't that Luo, she didn't trust Yifei. It was just that Yifei's actions were too crazy. In Luo Shi's opinion, Yifei's arrogant nature was acting up again. If I don't go, are you going? Yifei was too lazy to care about what Luo Shi was thinking. He just asked, are you going to fight or not? Answer me quickly. I will do it. Senior apprentice brother Yi, you must hold on. Luo Shi thought of Yifei's powerful sword intent, as well as the powerful temptation of the fire dragon fruit. He gritted his teeth and decided to accompany Yifei to go crazy. Yifei patted Luo Shi's shoulder with satisfaction and said, that's right. After we finish this job, we'll be friends. I'll go down first. You play it by ear. Dong. As soon as he finished speaking, Yifei jumped down from the tree. This action gave Luo Shi and the 3 senior disciples who were about to enter the Valley of Fright. Luo, she did not expect Yifei to really do it. The 3 senior disciples were simply shocked by Yifei's sudden appearance and thought that there might be an ambush around them. They immediately gathered together vigilantly and sized up their surroundings. Yifei greeted them with a smile. The 3 of you, don't look around. I'm the only one here. I was the one who discovered this fire dragon fruit first. I hope the 3 of you will show mercy and look elsewhere. He did not attack the 3 of them immediately. The senior disciples were different from the new disciples. Whether it was in terms of experience or martial arts, they were clearly much stronger than the new disciples. The only difference was that their talent was very low and they had no hope of continuing to break through in the sacred land. That was why they had been chased out by the saint. To be honest, Yifei felt some sympathy for these senior brothers. Back in the family Yi, he had experienced the pain of being completely abandoned by his fellow clansmen. However, Yifei's advice sounded like a joke to the 3 senior brothers. When they realized that Yifei was only a 10th grade martial master, the mockery on their faces turned into complete mockery. Ha! I didn't hear wrong, did I? Second brother, third brother, did you hear what this junior brother said? The leader of the senior disciples had a mocking look on his face, but his eyes were filled with viciousness. Big brother, you didn't hear wrong. This martial master junior brother seems to want to stop us three martial ancestor senior brothers from picking the fire dragon fruit. The second brother's face was filled with mockery. The third brother, who was the best at tracking, had a look of disdain on his face. Kid, you are just a piece of trash in the 10th grade martial master realm. How dare you appear before us in public? If you kneel down right now and bark like a dog, I will consider crippling you instead of killing you. When the other two disciples heard this, they stopped picking the fire dragon fruit. Instead, they surrounded Yi Fei and said mockingly, Kid, what are you still standing there for? Martial master trash, like you have to kneel down and talk to us senior brothers. This is the rule of the sacred land. When he heard these filthy words, Yi Fei didn't get angry. Instead, he secretly gestured to Luo Shi to attack. When he felt Luo Shi climb down the tree behind him, Yi Fei unceremoniously launched his most incisive counterattack. Shut up. You keep calling others trash. What about you? You've been in the Holy Land for so many years. What have you learned? If we, the new disciples, are trash, then you, who have been in the Holy Land for a few years and have been kicked out by the Holy Land, aren't you worse than trash? Yi Fei's words were very loud. He even used his quintessential origin energy, which caused the air to vibrate and hum. The three senior disciples were so angry that they were about to explode. The sacred land had chased them out. That was the biggest stain on their reputation. This martial master trash in front of them actually dared to insult them and poke them where it hurt them most. How could they endure this? Where would their senior brothers put their face? Thus, before Yi Fei could finish scolding them, the three senior disciples had already charged at Yi Fei with vicious looks on their faces. Brat, shut up. How dare you expose our shortcomings? I've decided. Today, not only will I cripple you, I'll also torture you to death. F***CK. I've been pissed off by this brat for a long time. A martial master trash actually dares to provoke us senior brothers. Let's kill him now. Boom, boom, boom. The senior disciples were indeed senior disciples. Their strength might not be great, but their combat experience was extremely rich. In an instant, they had already formed a formation to attack Yi Fei. Every move they made was aimed at Yi Fei's vital points. Obviously, from the beginning, they didn't intend to let Yi Fei live. The humiliation of being chased out of the sacred land had ignited all the vicious feelings in their hearts. Kill. 8 Desolations Swordplay. Meteor 100 Steps Fist. Shadow Thunderclaw. In the blink of an eye, the three senior disciples displayed their strongest martial arts, all of which were above the earth level. Yi Fei looked calm and ignored the attacks of the three. He didn't use the Undying Sword Soul, nor did he use the Devouring Sword Intent. He only used the Hellfire Sword, an upper-grade earth-grade sword technique. Hellfire Demon God Slash. Yi Fei held the Devouring Soul sword in his hand. His strong mental strength allowed him to sense the attack routes of the three people in front of him, even if he closed his eyes. Chapter 142. None left alive. Yi Fei did not want to reveal too many of his trump cards just to deal with 3 expelled disciples. He wanted to fight them with his own strength. At the same time, Yi Fei wanted to see how big the gap was between his current strength and these martial ancestor realm senior disciples. Hence, Yi Fei did not use anything but the Devouring Soul Sword. He used the Hellfire Sword. After all, it was a gift from the Sword Maniac Elder. For the Sword Maniac Elder, who loved swords to the point of madness, to carry an earth-level martial art with him, the Hellfire Sword was definitely one of the best among sword techniques. Most importantly, the Hellfire Sword had a very strange characteristic. The sword chi it released was invisible. Unless it was a martial art of the same level as the Hellfire Sword, or if one's own strength was too strong, anyone who came into contact with the sword chi for the first time would be at a disadvantage. At this moment, the 3 senior disciples were at a disadvantage. They saw that Yi Fei was only waving the Devouring Soul Sword, but did not see Yi Fei release any sword chi. They thought that Yi Fei was scared stiff by them. The three of them revealed cold and cruel mockery on their faces. Ah, look at this trash. Wasn't he very arrogant just now? In the end, when we charged, this trash was so scared that he did not release any sword chi. Second brother, third brother, don't kill him yet. It's rare to meet such an interesting trash. Let's cut off his arms and legs first. The three of us will torture him slowly. That's how it should be. We'll let those new disciples know how powerful we are. Even if we are expelled from the sacred land, we're not people that you rookies can provoke. Ah, third brother could not finish his words. He was the fastest to charge, and his strength was the lowest among the three. Just as he spoke, an invisible sword chi had already cut off third brother's sword-wielding hand. Following that, the second brother and the eldest brother's screams rang out one after another. They had also crashed into the sword chi space that Yifei had set up, but they did not suffer much damage. Seeing the third brother's miserable state, they immediately retreated, not forgetting to drag the third brother out as well. Yifei was slightly surprised. He then shook his head and thought to himself, these senior disciples have too much battle experience. It seems that I was still a little naive. I might not be able to kill them with just the invisible sword chi. It's actually invisible sword chi. At the very least, it has to be above earth grade. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to chop off third brother's arms so easily. This brat is so sinister. He's actually pretending to be a pig in front of us. The moment the Hellfire Sword appeared, the three senior disciples were stunned. They did not dare to continue attacking Yifei. They even took a cautious step back. It was also this step that made their faces turn red, followed by endless shame and anger. It was clearly 3 against 1. In the end, the three of them, martial ancestor realm experts, were actually so scared by the rookie, a martial master realm trash, that they did not dare to step forward. Unbearable. I don't care if he's trash or pretending to be a pig. Since he dared to cut off my arm, I must kill him. Third brother, whose arm had been cut off, glared at Yifei viciously as he charged forward again. The blood from his severed arm quickly scattered into the air. However, it did not fall. Instead, it floated strangely. Third brother was slightly stunned when he saw this, while big brother and second brother were ecstatic. After all, being able to join the Holy Land proved that they were once rare geniuses in their respective countries. Of course, they knew what this floating blood meant. Big brother was pleasantly surprised. I have a way to break this invisible sword chi. Second brother was ecstatic. Third brother, continue to scatter your blood into the air. Blood can make the invisible sword chi appear. All right, big brother, second brother, watch me. As long as I don't have this damned invisible sword chi, I can crush this trash in front of me with one hand. Third brother was ruthless. He immediately turned his body and scattered the blood from his severed arm into the air as if it was free. Yifei was very depressed in his heart. No wonder the Hellfire Sword is so strange and can't be ranked as a heaven-level martial art. Formless sword chi actually has such a flaw. When it comes into contact with blood, it will be revealed. Second brother, third brother, let's attack together and torture this trash to death. Big brother was quick-witted. Seeing that the invisible sword chi had been broken, he immediately mustered his courage and planned to kill Yifei as quickly as possible. Oh no, Yifei is in danger. At this moment, Luo, she had just run to the front of the dragon fruit tree. Before he could pluck it, he saw Yifei's invisible sword chi being broken. Cold sweat rolled down Luo Shi's forehead. In Luo Shi's opinion, Yifei's greatest reliance was his sword will and the invisible Hellfire Sword. Now that the invisible sword chi had been broken, how could Yifei withstand the joint attack of 3 martial arts grandmasters? Luo Shi immediately panicked and stopped plucking the dragon fruit. He rushed over like a gust of wind. Yifei, hold on. I'm coming to help you. There's another new disciple. He's a martial arts grandmaster realm 2nd stage expert. Don't worry about him. Kill this trash first. Then work together to kill the one behind. Then the dragon fruit will be ours. Die, kid. The 3 senior disciples no longer cared about tormenting Yifei. They only wanted to kill Yi Fei in one blow and then turn back to deal with Luo Shi. Don't come over. You were just lucky enough to break my invisible sword chi. If I want you dead, you won't live, Yi Fei said coldly. Even though they were far apart, Luo Shi could feel Yi Fei's dominance and confidence when he said these words. Luo Shi's footsteps paused subconsciously. Then, Luo Shi saw a scene that shocked him greatly. Seeing the three senior disciples rush into the invisible sword chi space, Yi Fei's lips curled into a cold smile. He said word by word, "Hellfire appear." Whoosh! Purple flames filled the sky and burned fiercely on the devouring soul sword. Then, following Yi Fei's movements, the flames spread in all directions. Any invisible sword chi that came into contact with these flames instantly turned from sword chi to burning purple flames. The invisible sword chi space had also turned into invisible flame space. This was the second strange thing about the Hellfire Sword. Not only could it make sword chi invisible, but could also transform sword chi into hellfire at any time. As Yi Fei's body contained the extraterrestrial divine fire, which was even more powerful than hellfire, Yi Fei felt that this sword technique was practically tailor-made for him. Not only did the extraterrestrial divine fire have the power to instantly burn a martial master into ashes, but it was also very lethal to martial ancestor realm cultivators. This was especially so for the third senior disciple. He had already been injured and his strength had decreased greatly. Faced with the sudden transformation of the extraterrestrial divine fire, the third senior disciple had no time to defend himself. His entire body was engulfed in flames, and he kept rolling on the ground, screaming in fear. Third senior disciple. The second senior disciple's face was filled with fear. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that the new disciple, whom he had looked down on and called trash, would have such terrifying strength. He turned around and wanted to escape, but he realized that his legs were trembling uncontrollably. Then, a flash of sword light pierced his heart. Yi Fei had no intention of holding back. He had already given them a chance. However, these three people did not listen to his advice and actually wanted to kill him. If the one who attacked was not Yi Fei, but a new disciple of the Martial Master Realm 10th layer, he would have been tortured to death. Facing such vicious people, Yi Fei would naturally be as ruthless as he could be. The last one. It's your turn. Do you want to commit suicide, or do you want me to do it? Yi Fei raised the devouring spirit sword, which was dripping with blood, and pointed it at the only senior disciple who was still alive. Seeing that his two companions did not even have the chance to retaliate before being killed by Yi Fei, this person was completely scared out of his wits. He was clearly a martial ancestor realm 2nd layer expert, but this person was scared out of his wits and screamed like a woman. "No, don't kill me. I don't want to die." The last senior disciple had already turned around and fled in fear. Fleeing was not safe enough. He actually condensed chi wings and tried to fly at a low altitude. Seeing this, Luo Shi shook his head slightly. He was still quite far away. The other party had chi wings and could glide at a low altitude for a long distance. Although he was unwilling, Luo Shi knew that Yi Fei would not be able to catch up. "Where do you think you're going? Since you want to kill me, then leave your life behind." That was right. Yi Fei did not have the ability to glide at a low altitude like a martial ancestor realm master. However, this did not mean that he would let this senior disciple go. Chapter 143. Hope Kill. Yi Fei did not manage to catch up to the senior disciple, nor did he have any intention of doing so. He took advantage of the moment when the senior disciple spread his wings and was about to fly away. The soul-devouring sword flew out of his hand like a terrifying spear. With a piercing sound, it was hurled out by Yi Fei. By this time, the senior disciple had already used his chi wings to fly 50 to 60 steps into the air. At such a distance, no one would be able to catch up to him. Damn it, I was really unlucky this time. I actually ran into two experts among the new disciples. But don't think that this is the end of it. The other brothers will definitely be very interested in those dragon fruits. Thinking that he had already escaped to a safe place, the senior disciple did not forget to plan his revenge on Yi Fei and reclaim the dragon fruits. Then, he felt a terrifying whistling sound behind his head. The soul-devouring sword had already pierced through his body with a terrifying black light. How is this possible? The senior disciple's eyes widened. Even in death, he would never have imagined that Yi Fei would have such a move. He used his sword as a spear to kill his enemy from a distance. The senior disciple's heart was filled with deep regret. If he had not been so greedy and had not forgotten to plan his revenge on Yi Fei when he was escaping, the soul-devouring sword might not have pierced him so easily. But it was too late to say anything now. His eyes dimmed as the senior disciple's corpse fell from the sky. Plop! Blood and dust splattered on the ground. Luo Shi, who had seen this scene, was also shocked. Even now, he was still in a daze. Brother Fei, you actually killed 3 senior disciples of the martial arts sect? Luo, she was so shocked that he did not even notice that he had changed the way he addressed Yi Fei from senior brother Yi to brother Fei. Clearly, Luo, she had already acknowledged Yi Fei's status from the bottom of his heart, whether he was willing to admit it or not. If others don't offend me, I won't offend them. They were the ones who wanted to kill me. If I didn't kill them, should I just stand there and let them kill me? All right, what did you call me just now? Yi Fei looked at Luo Shi with a strange expression. Only then did Luo Shi realize his slip of the tongue. His face darkened, but he had already spoken. Although he was a little reluctant, Luo Shi still pointed at the bodies of the old disciples and asked, Brother Fei, should we dispose of these bodies? Yi Fei shook his head and said, There's no need to deal with them. Just take away their identity tokens. I'll go pick the dragon fruit first. Luo, she was completely depressed. Why did he have to do all the dirty work? How was he any different from Yi Fei's underlings? When Luo, she found the identity tokens of the 3 senior disciples, Yi Fei also successfully picked 2 flame-like dragon fruits and walked out of the valley. It's not that he doesn't want to pick more, but there are only 2 dragon fruits on this dragon fruit tree. It's very rare. Fortunately, there's only him and Luo Shi here, so it's just nice for each of them. Here, this is your share. Yi Fei handed Luo Shi a dragon fruit. Brother Fei, I can't accept it. I didn't do anything this time. Although Luo Shi coveted it, he still stuck to his principles. He had just watched the battle from the sidelines and hadn't done anything. Therefore, he had no reason to accept this generous gift. Since it's for you, just take it. Treat me as a brother, so don't be so formal. Yi Fei forced the dragon fruit into Luo Shi's hands. Actually, Luo Shi had also done his part in the battle. If Luo Shi's sudden appearance hadn't caused the 3 senior disciples to panic and divert most of their attention to Luo Shi, a second-stage martial ancestor realm expert, Yi Fei wouldn't have been able to kill 3 martial ancestor realm experts so easily. Brother Fei, thank you very much. Hearing this, Luo Shi couldn't refuse anymore. Since Yi Fei treated him as a brother, Luo Shi wasn't a pretentious person. After putting away the dragon fruit, Luo Shi took out 3 tokens and handed them to Yi Fei. Brother Fei, these are the identity tokens of the 3 senior disciples. There are also 1,000 contribution points on them. 1,000 contribution points? These senior disciples are really rich. Yi Fei was a little surprised. He remembered correctly that a silver token could only be exchanged for 1,000 contribution points. Now that he had obtained the identity tokens of the 3 senior disciples, he had actually obtained 3,000 contribution points. After witnessing Yi Fei's strength and discovering that these senior disciples couldn't even withstand a single blow, Luo Shi excitedly suggested to Yi Fei, Brother Fei, it looks like the change in the rules of the ranking battle this time is very beneficial to us. As long as we join forces and defeat enough senior disciples to obtain their identity tokens, perhaps Brother Fei can defeat Ouyang Jie and Gu Man and obtain first place in the ranking battle. Now, Luo Shi had completely acknowledged Yi Fei. Even if Yifei's talent wasn't as good as Ouyang, Jia, and Guman's, Yifei's potential still gave Luo Shi a great shock. Haha, this suggestion isn't bad. All right, then let's join forces and defeat more senior disciples. Perhaps I really do have the hope of turning defeat into victory. Yifei's eyes lit up. The change in the rules of the ranking battle this time was so sudden that Yifei couldn't help but suspect that an elder had secretly tampered with the rules in order to pave the way for Ouyang, Jia and the other geniuses to obtain good results. In particular, Luo, she had also told him that Ouyang Jia had joined forces with hundreds of disciples to deal with him. As long as each of these disciples contributed a black iron token, the contribution points Ouyang Jia would accumulate would definitely be more than 10 times or even dozens of times more than Yifei's. In that case, Yifei would completely lose the bet with Ouyang Jia. Yifei wasn't someone who would easily admit defeat. Even if he knew that the chances were slim, Luo Shi's suggestion still gave Yifei a glimmer of hope to surpass Ouyang Jia. Ouyang Jia has many new disciples helping him. When it comes to the speed of collecting tokens, I definitely can't compare to him. However, I also have Luo Shi's help. With our combined strength, as long as we can quickly defeat enough senior disciples and obtain enough contribution points, it might not be impossible for us to surpass Ouyang Jia. After quickly calculating in his mind, Yifei quickly determined that this might be the only way for him to turn defeat into victory. Hence, he immediately suggested to Luo Shi, then let's act now and snatch the identity tokens of those senior disciples. Luo Shi's face was full of excitement as he nodded vigorously and said, let's act now. These senior disciples not only have contribution points, but they also participated in the ranking battle. Perhaps they even know where the heaven spiritual pool is in the pocket world. As long as we can find it, we will be rich. Yifei also smiled and nodded. After eavesdropping on the conversation between the 3 senior disciples, he already knew that the greatest use of the dragon fruit was that it could be used in conjunction with the heaven spiritual pool when breaking through a large realm. This allowed a martialist to break through without any bottlenecks. Chapter 144. Chaos. Since he had such an idea, Yifei naturally wouldn't hide his tracks like before. On the contrary, he swaggered towards the plains where there were many people. Not only were there many new disciples, but there were also many old disciples. Yifei planned to use himself as bait to lure those old disciples to attack him. As for Luo Shi, his second-level martial arts grandmaster strength was too eye-catching. He was afraid of scaring the senior disciples and could only carefully hide nearby, ready to cooperate with Yifei at any time. However, after walking for a long distance, Yifei did not know if it was because his luck was not too good, but he did not meet any of the old disciples who were regarded as scourges by the new disciples. Are you kidding me? I've already been so high-profile. Why haven't any of the older disciples come looking for trouble with me? Yifei felt a little strange. According to common sense, those old disciples didn't want to be chased out of the Holy Land. They should be desperately searching for new disciples as targets. In particular, a disciple in the martial master realm like Yifei was definitely the best target for the senior disciples. In the end, after walking for so long, not to mention the senior disciples, he didn't even meet a new disciple. This didn't make sense. Seeing that there was no one around, Luo Shi walked out of his hiding place and said, Brother Fei, this doesn't seem to work. We've waited for so long, but we haven't seen a single person. This is really strange. Obviously, Luo Shi also noticed that something was wrong, but he didn't know what it was. Yifei thought for a moment, then suddenly asked Luo Jing, don't you know how to tame beasts? Can you communicate with vicious beasts or Yao beasts? In fact, vicious beasts and demonic beasts were the same as human warriors. They could cultivate and had intelligence. Some particularly powerful demonic beasts were as intelligent as humans, but they could not speak. Yifei's words reminded Luo Shi of something. Why didn't I think of that? Although my Luo family's beast taming technique can allow us to know the exact thoughts of the demonic beasts, we can still communicate with them. Brother Fei, please wait a moment. Luo, she rushed into the nearby forest excitedly. Before long, he came out with a rhinoceros covered in plate armor. As he walked, he communicated with the rhinoceros. The rhinoceros demonic beast was very obedient. It looked at the road cooperatively and put its nose to the grass for a while. Then it suddenly shouted a few times towards the east. There are people in the east of the demonic beast taming technique. Yi Fei's beast taming technique editor. Not only that, but it also said that there are a lot of people gathered there, and they're fighting one another. It scared those monstrous beasts so much that they don't dare to approach that area, Luo Yin said. Yi Fei's demonic beasts were the demonic beasts of the demonic beasts. Could it be that those old disciples had started a bloody massacre of the new disciples? Yi Fei's demonic beasts. Yi Fei's NNs of the god beasts NNNK. Yi Fei's NNN Yi Fei NN. I don't care so much. Let's go take a look first. Yi Fei made his decision. Along the way, Luo Shi's beast taming technique had also been of great help, allowing them to avoid many detours. Soon, Yi Fei sensed a thick stench of blood not far in front of him. Soon after, there was a flurry of footsteps hurrying towards them. Chen Fong, you've gone too far. We're all new disciples. We've only just received your news and came here to gather. In the end, you've taken the side of the evildoers. You've helped those old disciples to deal with us and even kill my companion. I'm going to report you to the elders. Behind a barren mountain not far away, a new disciple covered in blood ran out. There were several arrows stuck in his back, and he was being chased by more than 10 new disciples. It's actually Chun Fong. He's the genius ranked 20th among the new disciples. Why would he bring people to hunt down a junior brother in the martial master realm? Luo, she was a little confused. Yi Fei's eyes involuntarily flashed with a cold glint. The new disciple's words are already very clear. I don't know why, but Chun Fong and his group have sided with the old disciples. They've even deliberately lured the new disciples here to die. As he spoke, Yi Fei did not conceal himself. He directly strode forward. His appearance startled both sides. The new disciple who was running for his life did not recognize Yi Fei. When he saw Yi Fei walking over alone, he thought that Yi Fei was the same as him. He had been tricked by Chun Fong on purpose. This person even kindly reminded Yi Fei, "Brother, you'd better leave quickly. Chun Fong is lying to you. He has already sided with the old disciples and deliberately lured us here to steal our tokens." Ha ha ha, you want to leave? Don't even think about leaving today. If you obediently hand over your tokens, we can still let you go. If you dare to resist, only death awaits you. Chun Fong laughed savagely. He rushed to the new disciple's side in a few steps and was about to kill him. Yi Fei also moved and suddenly blocked the new disciple. He stared at Chun Fong and said coldly, "We're all new disciples. It's bad enough that you've lured him here. Don't you think you're going overboard by trying to kill him the moment you see him?" Yi Fei did not recognize the new disciple in front of him. However, he did not forget to warn Yi Fei when he was running away. Yi Fei would not let anything happen to him. "Hey, you're Yi Fei." At this moment, one of the new disciples among Chun Fong's subordinates recognized Yi Fei. The others were in an uproar. "What? He's Yi Fei, that evil demon. Didn't Ouyang Jie say that whoever kills him will gain the favor of Ouyang Jie? I didn't expect this evil demon to still be alive." The new disciple who was running away was also very surprised. He did not expect that the person he had kindly warned would be Yi Fei. Yi Fei even stood out and saved his life. At this moment, Chun Fong recovered from his shock and reacted in surprise. "Ha! Today is really my lucky day. I originally wanted to lure some trash here to die. I didn't expect to lure the trash that senior brother Ouyang must kill here. Yi Fei, tell me, how do you want to die?" Chun Fong was a genius ranked 20th among the new disciples. He was also a martial ancestor expert. Of course, he did not think much of a 10th grade martial master expert. Chun Fong had even planned to humiliate the trash in front of him and then cripple him before sending him to Ouyang Jie. That way, he would be able to gain the benefits of Ouyang Jia. Yi Fei could not be bothered to say more to Chen Fong. He directly expressed his attitude and said, "You are not qualified to make me do it. Leave your tokens and get lost immediately." Boom! A terrifying killing intent was released from Yi Fei's body. No one doubted that if they provoked Yi Fei, only death would await them. A portion of the disciples subconsciously took a few steps back. A bunch of good-for-nothings. Why are you retreating? You have the protection of me, Chen Fong, a first-grade martial ancestor expert. Are you afraid of this martial master trash? That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.